Chapter 478. In an instant, the Confucian cultivators were in an uproar. Yan Chuan, who they did not think highly of in the past, was now taken seriously by many. He was even on the same level as Sima Yuntian. This time, Yan Chuan defeated the 32 Confucian scholars in the peak literary gathering. One could imagine that the two sides would have a lot of literary battles in the future. Everything has only just begun, one of the Confucian cultivators said. After this sentence, almost everyone felt their blood boiling. Yes, this was going to be exciting. With the domineering poem, Yan Chuan's reputation once again shook the entire city. In the city, countless cultivators looked up at the East Hall. There a new star was rising. Meng Rongrong's residence. What? How is that possible? Meng Rongrong said in surprise. A few Confucian cultivators who had returned from the peak literary gathering nodded and said, "It's true. Miss, you didn't see it." At that time, Yan Chuan's poem made them spit out blood. Those Confucian scholars were already powerful, but how could they be a match for Yan Chuan? Wang Long had already reached the level of shocking the wind and rain, and his poem made ghosts and gods weep. But what can we do? Since Shanglong Wai Xingchuan, a group of Confucian cultivators were talking at once. Meng Rongrong had a complicated look in her eyes. She did not know why, but she secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Julu Hall. In the square, one could overlook Julu City. The Dean Meng Ziqiu and the Dean Yui stood with their hands behind their backs, looking in the direction of the Yong Hall. Creating a scene with his brush? This Yan Chuan is amazing. Yui frowned. Back then, his father Yan Tao turned Julu City upside down. After 100 years, this son is still worrisome. Meng Ziqiu laughed. Not only worrisome, but from the looks of it, he is going to surpass him. Yui sighed. I wonder how Sima Yuntian will react this time. Meng Ziqiu laughed bitterly. Him. If it were back then, I would definitely retaliate. However, after a few hundred years, I can't see through him anymore. Lui shook his head. Then let's wait a little longer. Meng Ziqiu said coolly. Inside the Eastern Palace Hall. Miao Yanchuan, you were awesome just now. I'm dying of laughter. That person was so happy to scold you just now, and now he's vomiting blood because of you. Miao shouted excitedly. Qinglong was also slightly excited. Qinglong didn't have much literary talent. In the past, he didn't even care about literary battles. But after experiencing it with his own eyes, Qinglong felt his blood boil. I've been unhappy with Wang Long for a long time. Old fogey, how dare you disrespect your elders? You actually have so many concubines. Dongfang Zhengpai scolded. It was hard to tell whether it was disdain or jealousy. Yan Chuan smiled faintly and did not take it seriously. Oh right, you slapped their faces again. They will definitely retaliate even more fiercely. You have to be careful. Dongfang Zhengpai's face suddenly turned serious. No worries. Qinglong continued to search. Yan Chuan said to Qinglong, yes, young master. Qinglong said respectfully. Miao, you really did come out to read books and send them away. Miao said in surprise. What else did you think? Yan Chuan laughed. Miao, I thought you waited until the end just to slap him in the face. Miao Miao said blankly. Fuck. Dongfang Zhengpai also said blankly. Julu City, in a large hall, there were 60 people sitting. Chapter 479. Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others were among the 60 people. In the center of the hall there was a huge signboard. Fishing for fame. It was extremely eye-catching. The 32 Grand Confucians who had been humiliated in the Yong Hall were pale as they looked at the other 28 men in white with great respect. Senior brothers. Chen Ping said with an ugly expression. I underestimated Yan Chuan. Senior brothers, please punish me. Wang Long said as he stood up. Everyone looked coldly at Wang Long. The square-faced leader said in a deep voice, You provoked him without knowing the situation? It's indeed your fault. It's not all Wang Long's fault. Yan Chuan is so young. Who would have thought that he would have such accomplishments? Another Grand Confucian said in a deep voice, Senior brothers, we've lost face for master. Senior brothers, please seek justice for us. Chen Ping said solemnly. Seek justice? Humph. The group of Grand Confucians snorted and looked at Chen Ping. Chen Ping did not dare to say anything. The leading Grand Confucian thought for a while and said, Yan Chuan signed up for the God investiture strategy, so a fight with us is inevitable. We can't remain indifferent to our defeat. Senior brother Lu Zilu, should we report this to teacher? Wang Long asked. The leading Grand Confucian, Lu Zilu, shook his head and said, at this moment, teacher is leading the 12th senior brother. He won't care about external affairs. That's right. We can't disturb teacher. Teacher is at a critical juncture. He will only do his best when the competition for the God investiture strategy starts. Another Grand Confucian said, this time teacher is not only competing for the God investiture strategy, but also has important things to do. We can't ruin teacher's plans. Lu Zilu nodded. Senior brothers are the most senior here. Senior brother Lu Zilu, what do you think? Wang Long said. Lu Zilu pondered for a while and said, even though it's impressive that the writing style manifests the atmosphere, it's not just about words. When my teacher traveled around the world, he wrote some beautiful essays that could move the heavens and earth. Some of his essays were given to us, and that's a height that Yan Chuan could never reach. That's right. Essays are made by nature. It's not easy to write a splendid essay. Most of the time it depends on fate. I don't believe that Yan Chuan can write a splendid essay so casually. Even if he can write one, it's impossible for him to write a second one. It depends on fate. Another great Confucian nodded. Senior brother is wise. Chen Ping immediately praised. It's just a pity that such a beautiful piece of literature will be wasted on this child. What a pity. Wang Long sighed softly. Is it a pity? It's not a pity. This is just the beginning. Don't we have anything else other than articles? Lu Zilu sneered. In Julu City, in a restaurant, there were two men sitting on a chair. One of them was dressed in white. It was the white tiger that Miao changed his name to Bai Long. Next to him was a man with an extremely carefree appearance. He had a head of black hair and was wearing a green scholar's robe. He looked extraordinary. Bai Long listened to the discussions in the restaurant. Young master is really amazing. We just entered the city and there's already news about him everywhere? Defeated a group of Confucians? Bai Long exclaimed. Defeated a group of Confucians? The king is always so dazzling no matter where he goes. The man in the green Confucian robe sighed softly. Mr. Yifeng, since we know that young master is in the East Hall, let's go. I can't wait. Is young master's poem really that amazing? Bai Long took a deep breath and said excitedly. Yifeng was the grand preceptor of the Yan state. He once played chess with Yan Chuan and later stayed in the Yan state for Yan Chuan. There's no hurry. At least let me finish this mouthful of wine. Yifeng smiled. Chapter 480. Julu City. East Palace Hall. In the East Palace Hall, there were piles of books that described how busy Yan Chuan had been over the past few days. Yan Chuan had a book in front of him. He flipped it open to a picture album. There was a picture of a jade pendant on the album. Yan Chuan furrowed his brows as he tapped the table with his fingers. He was deep in thought. Bai Ditian? 8,000 years ago? An ambitious and ruthless person. Yan Chuan pondered. Miao? What's wrong? Miao asked curiously. Only Yan Chuan and Miao were in the palace hall. Everyone else had left. Based on this information, I have figured out why Bai Ditian reincarnated. Yan Chuan said after pondering for a while. Why? Back then, Bai Ditian and his wife had reached the pinnacle of the emptiness realm. They must have gone through the heavenly tribulations at the same time. Unfortunately, they found out that Bai Ditian's wife was pregnant during the heavenly tribulations. Bai Ditian sacrificed himself to help his wife ascend to the immortal realm. Yan Chuan said. I see. Miao didn't think too much about it. Miao was too optimistic. If it were someone else, they would have found the loophole in Yan Chuan's story. Pregnant? Even Bai Ditian didn't know about it. How did Yan Chuan find out? Miao. They are back. Miao jumped out of the palace hall excitedly. Yan Chuan was the only one left in the palace hall. He was looking at the picture on the table. Bai too sure I didn't expect that I would find out about your identity. I even met your father. When we go back, you must treat me to a drink. Yan Chuan smiled bitterly. Go back? Yin Chuan thought for a while. Bai Ditian's son was near where I was in my previous life? Could it be a coincidence? No, it can't be a coincidence. How can there be so many coincidences in the world? If it isn't a coincidence, then there is only one possibility. Yin Chuan frowned. After I ascended to the immortal realm, this world is very close to where I was in my previous life. In other words, this world is not far from where I was in my previous life. Since it's not far, I know where I was. Why didn't I know this place? Where is this? Yin Chuan frowned as he pondered. While Yin Chuan, Azure Dragon and Dongfeng Zhengpai walked into the hall. Young master, we've searched through all kinds of green jade in the city and found a total of 200 types. Azure Dragon said. Why? Seeing Azure Dragon take out a large number of fist-sized green jades, Yin Chuan smiled faintly and said, Dongfeng Zheng sect, I might need to borrow your Dongfeng Highness for a period of time. Oh, no problem. I don't even have a single servant here. If you like, feel free to stay. Dongfeng Zhengpai said straightforwardly. Yin Chuan sifted through the 200 types of jade and soon found one of them. What is the use of this jade? Dongfeng Zhengpai asked. Yin Chuan smiled faintly. He gathered his qi into the shape of a knife and began to carve the fist-sized jade. Rustle! Rustle! A large amount of jade fragments flew into the air, and before everyone's eyes, a jade pendant appeared in Yin Chuan's palm. It looks similar to the one in the picture? No, it's different. It doesn't look like it. Dongfeng Zhengpai looked at the picture on the table. This is a set. Yin Chuan said. A set? Dongfeng Zhengpai thought. Azure Dragon, I'll have to trouble you again. Yin Chuan said solemnly. What are you talking about, master? If you need anything, just let me know. Qinglong smiled. He took a deep breath and looked at the jade pendant in his hand. Then he said, send this jade pendant to Bai Ditian. Chapter 481. Bai Ditian. Qinglong exclaimed in shock. Yin Chuan had been investigating Bai Ditian's background, and Qinglong had a rough idea. This Bai Ditian was an incredible figure 8,000 years ago. The sovereign of the tiger race? Jade pendant? That's right. Pass the jade pendant to him. You don't have to say much. Just pass me a message and you can come back first. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Young master, please speak. Qinglong received the jade pendant solemnly. Although he didn't understand Yin Chuan's intentions, he knew that this was a serious matter. Tell him that I, Yin Chuan, will be waiting for you at Julu City's East Hall. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Qinglong nodded and stepped out of the hall. Meow. Meow's eyes were filled with confusion. Dongfeng Zhengpai's eyes were also filled with curiosity. Bai Ditian? Is it really that Bai Ditian? Dongfeng Zhengpai exclaimed in shock. It can't be wrong. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Then why are you looking for him? Dongfeng Zhengpai didn't understand. Let's be friends. Yin Chuan smiled. Ah. Dongfeng Zhengpai's eyes were filled with disbelief. Not long after Qinglong left, there was a loud commotion outside the East Hall. Someone else is here? Dongfeng Zhengpai asked curiously. Yin Chuan had been cooped up in the hall for the past few days. He carried Miao out of the hall. Outside the floating island, there was a slight ripple in the void. It was obvious that the array was blocking the people outside. Dongfeng Zhengpai waved his hand, and the array was deactivated. 3 Confucian scholars flew into the plaza. One of them was the leader, while the other 2 carried a signboard. It's you? Why are you here again? Dongfeng Zhengpai immediately shouted. The leader of the Confucian scholars smiled bitterly and nodded. Everyone, it's me again. The great Confucian scholars have asked me to send an invitation to Yin Chuan. As he spoke, the 2 people behind him quickly carried a huge signboard. It was still the same signboard that said, Fishing for Fame. Behind the signboard, the words invitation were written again. Have these Confucians gone mad? Why are they still keeping this plaque? Aren't they afraid of losing face? Dongfeng Zhengpai exclaimed. Yin Chuan smiled faintly. The literary summit is not over yet. All the great Confucian scholars have returned once again. Yin Chuan, please move to the Yong Hall. The 3 Confucian scholars said respectfully. After saying that, the 3 Confucian scholars left behind their invitations, turned around and flew away. Yong Palace? Yin Chuan, Dongfang Zhengpai, and Miao all looked toward the Yong Palace Hall. On the high platform of the Yong Hall, the original 32 great Confucians had now become 60. All of them stood with their hands behind their backs, looking in the direction of Yin Chuan. Below the high platform, nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators had gathered. What's wrong with these scholars? That group of Confucian cultivators scattered, but they summoned them back? Dongfang Zhengpai said in surprise. Miao. Miao was also curious. In the distance, all the scholars looked in the direction of Yin Chuan. The leader of the 60 great Confucians was a square-faced Confucian. Lu Zilu led the other Confucians to look at Yin Chuan. Your humble servant is Lu Zilu. Some time ago, Prince Yin shone brightly at the literary summit. Your humble servant has several wonderful essays. I would like to invite Prince Yin to review them together. Lu Zilu said with a slight bow. Lu Zilu's attitude was very respectful. However, anyone could tell that this was a provocation. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators had just received the news that the 60 great Confucians had sent invitations to the Yong Hall to continue the literary summit. There was not much written in the invitations, but the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were immediately stirred up. Who could not tell? Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others had lost and were calling for reinforcements. Although they looked down on the actions of the great Confucians, this kind of competition was what all the Confucian cultivators looked forward to. Without saying a word, the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately dropped everything they were doing and rushed to the Yong Hall. Some of them even dragged a few good friends to the Yong Hall to watch the battle between the 2 great literary factions. This kind of clash between literary factions was a fatal temptation to the Confucian cultivators. This time no one mocked Yin Chuan. They only looked forward to it. 60 great Confucians. Even if Yin Chuan lost, it would not be embarrassing. Fighting against a group of Confucians alone? The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators looked expectantly at Yin Chuan in the distance. They hoped that Yin Chuan would come over. Miao, these guys are not afraid of death. Yin Chuan, let's go and trample them to death. They still have the face to come? Miao said excitedly. Yin Chuan, they must have come prepared. Dongfang Zhengpai said with a frown. Yin Chuan looked into the distance, and a strange smile appeared in his eyes. Wonderful essays? I'll just watch from here. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yin Chuan did not go over. It was as if he would lose his dignity if he did. None of the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were dissatisfied. Those who were capable naturally had their own pride. In the distance, Lu Zilu raised his eyebrows. He waved his hand lightly. Suddenly a new stone stele appeared. A Confucian cultivator carefully took out a box with a scroll inside. The Confucian cultivator tied the scroll to the stone stele and gently unfurled it. When the scroll unfurled, a fishy smell immediately assaulted his face. Walala! The sound of countless waves could be heard. When the scroll unfurled, blue light soared into the sky. A huge illusory image suddenly appeared in the sky, and waves of blue mist enveloped the illusory image. Boom! 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 Huge waves rose and fell in the illusory image. Inside the illusory image was a vast sea that was 2,000 feet in size. The sea surged and roared endlessly. Hua! The image of a painting? More than that. This is a beautiful essay. The essay contains a beautiful image. This is a sea. A single essay contains the vastness of the sea? Waves of exclamations came from all around. The splendid essay rushed out with great momentum. Instantly it collided with Yin Chuan's poem. Although the murderous aura of a peerless general was strong, the momentum of the vast sea was even more spectacular. Moreover, the area of blue mist was twice as large as the area of white mist. The huge impact immediately suppressed Yin Chuan's poem slightly. It was a beautiful piece of writing. Immediately, countless Confucian cultivators revealed looks of worship and fanaticism. The 60 Confucian cultivators stroked their beards, their eyes flashing with pride. Especially Wang Long, Chen Ping, and the others. The depression from a few days ago was finally alleviated. Yin Chuan's poem was finally suppressed. Great! Moreover, there were a few such splendid essays in his line of work. Let's see what Yin Chuan will do now. While the Confucian cultivators were feeling proud, they subconsciously glanced at Yin Chuan in the East Hall in the distance. But when they saw Yin Chuan, their faces all froze. In the distance, Yin Chuan did not look at them at all. Instead, he was happily facing two strange people. This beautiful essay can't compare to those two guys who came out of nowhere? The Confucian cultivators' faces darkened slightly. In the square of the East Hall, Bai Long and Yifeng arrived. "Young master!" Bai Long shouted excitedly. "Greetings, my king." Yifeng bowed respectfully. "Ha ha ha ha, no need to be so polite." Yin Chuan immediately stepped forward to support Yifeng with a smile on his face. Chapter 482. With Yifeng's arrival, Yin Chuan was delighted. Yin Chuan and Yifeng were catching up outside the East Hall, which made the scholars of the number 60 sect speechless. This was blatant disregard. You don't even care about the scholars of the number 60 sect? Chun Ping was about to glare at them. Lu Zilu waved his hand and stopped Chun Ping's impulse. Looking into the distance, Lu Zilu was slightly worried. He waved his hand again. A scholar nodded. Another giant stele appeared, and another scroll was gently hung up. Wanru looked at Yin Chuan in the distance in confusion, but more than that, he looked at the second scroll excitedly. The scroll slowly opened, and a wave of heat hit their faces. Yellow light soared into the sky, and a large amount of yellow fog rushed out of the scroll. In the yellow fog, a different scene appeared. A rolling desert. An endless expanse of scorching sun. Although they were in Julu City, looking at the words, everyone felt as if they were in a desert. This was not a painting but a poem. It was a poem, and the words were used to describe a desert, which immediately attracted the admiration of the group of Confucian cultivators. The desert stretched as far as the eye could see, and it was even bigger than the sea beside it. Although it was only 200 feet in diameter, the scorching sun of the desert seemed to be evaporating the seawater beside it. Rumble! The momentum of the desert pressed against the shadow of the fierce general. The pressure of the cold and the heat reduced the shadow of the peerless warrior by half. In terms of the momentum of the words, it had completely suppressed Yin Chuan's poem. Lu Zilu showed a satisfied smile, and the scholars were also very satisfied. They looked at Yin Chuan in the distance again. In the distance, Yin Chuan and Yifeng's catching up was about to end. "Yin Chuan, I have 3 more pieces of calligraphy here. Can you comment on them?" Lu Zilu shouted with satisfaction. Lu Zilu shouted and everyone looked at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan and Yifeng also slowly turned around. Suddenly, he saw the sacred scenery outside the Yong Hall. "Miao, Yin Chuan, your poem has been suppressed." Miao suddenly shouted. "My poem? They don't deserve to use my poems." Yin Chuan said indifferently. "Miao." Miao looked at Yin Chuan curiously. "Yin Chuan, this is splendid prose. What should we do?" "They have prepared 5 pieces of calligraphy." Dongfang Zhengpai said worriedly. "The magnificent waves and the sands of the world?" "Good poem. Julu City indeed lives up to its reputation. These 2 poems are truly formidable." Yifeng exclaimed in admiration. Yin Chuan smiled faintly. "However, Your Majesty's poem is also very domineering. This group of scholars is obviously here to cause trouble for Your Majesty. Does Your Majesty have any new poems?" Yifeng's eyes flashed with anticipation. Dongfang Zhengpai, who was standing at the side, immediately shouted, "How can it be that easy? The Qi will appear when the brush is drawn, but the Qi might not be as you wish. You have to use the splendid writing to control it." "Miao, this group of baddies," Miao suddenly said angrily. "Moreover, every piece of splendid prose will be famous as long as it is born. Therefore, it is impossible to copy the previous works. Yin Chuan, you are in trouble now." Dongfang Zhengpai said worriedly. "I have a lot of such works." Yin Chuan said indifferently. "Ah, no way." Dongfang Zhengpai said in surprise. "You all wait here. Yifeng, follow me into the hall." Yin Chuan said with a smile. "All right." Although Dongfang Zhengpai didn't believe it, he still nodded. Bai Long hugged the board that said, "Fishing for compliments," and stood together with Dongfang Zhengpai. He watched as Yin Chuan, Yifeng, and Miao walked back into the hall. Chapter 483. Bang! The door slammed shut. On the other side, Wang Long raised his eyebrows. Is Yin Chuan afraid? Is he going to run away? Chen Ping laughed. Ha ha ha, he's a coward again. Teacher's ordinary calligraphy is not something that kid can compare to. Another scholar said disdainfully. Lu Zilu shook his head and said no, Dongfangzhong sect and that person are still holding the plaque outside. Yin Chuan might have entered the Dongfang Hall to write. Right? How much can he write at this time? Chen Ping said disdainfully. Wait patiently. Lu Zilu said lightly. Okay. The group of scholars nodded. The scholars were also very curious at this moment. Many of them thought that Yin Chuan was afraid, but the 60 scholars waited patiently, and the commotion immediately subsided. In the Dongfang Hall. Meow. Another scroll. Meow shouted excitedly. In the blink of an eye, 100 scrolls were placed on a chair. Yi Feng tied each scroll with a trace of excitement. Wang, are my eyes playing tricks on me? Yi Feng said in surprise. I said this is not my essay. But it belongs to me. Yin Chuan shook his head and said, Meow, if it's not written by you, then who wrote it? Meow was puzzled. Yin Chuan shook his head and did not explain. It was more troublesome to explain. As the emperor in his previous life, the top scholar in the imperial examinations would write beautiful essays. The top scholar. That was the top scholar in every examination. In his previous life, Yin Chuan's country was much bigger than the Julu Academy. There were many talented people everywhere. During the imperial examinations, the beautiful essays were constantly handed to Yin Chuan's table. Yin Chuan only took 100 of them. How could the top scholar be bad? Moreover, this was a group of top scholars. The poem that Yin Chuan had written previously was merely a poem written by a martial arts scholar. He hadn't even seen Sima Yuntian. Was there a need to go all out? Your Majesty, you want me to go? Yi Feng understood tacitly. That's right. I have more important things to do from now on. You'll have to take care of these pedantic scholars for me. As for the art of chess, I'm sure none of them are better than you. Play to your strengths and avoid your weaknesses. Stall for some time for me. During this time, something might happen in the Eastern Palace Hall. Don't worry about it. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes, Your Majesty, please rest assured. I also want to meet this group of great scholars. Yi Feng said with a smile. Yin Chuan nodded. Soon, the doors of the Eastern Palace opened once more under the gazes of the crowd. Quang. As soon as the door opened, the Confucians in the distant Yong Hall immediately perked up. Yin Chuan actually dared to come out. Chen Ping revealed a trace of disdain. Yin Chuan walked in front, and Yi Feng came out with a large stack of scrolls. Chen Ping looked at the 100 scrolls that Yi Feng had brought out. The faces of the Confucians in the distance twitched. Is this Yin Chuan crazy? He didn't really write, did he? And so many at that? A Confucian cried out in shock. Bah! In such a short time he can write splendid prose? And 100 scrolls at that? Humph! Chen Ping snorted disdainfully. It wasn't just Chen Ping. The nearly 10,000 Confucians were also confused. What was he doing with a stack of scrolls? Yin Chuan, what are you doing? Dongfang Zhengpai asked in confusion. Bai Long, help me protect Yi Feng. Remember, Yi Feng's safety comes first. Yin Chuan looked at Bai Long. Yes. Bai Long solemnly said. Thank you, Your Majesty. Yi Feng nodded. Mr. Yi Feng, what are you holding? Let me help you. Bai Long immediately stepped forward. Chapter 484. Yi Feng nodded and handed all the scrolls to Bai Long. Dongfang Zhengpai. I told you before that I would like to borrow your palace for a while. Do you remember? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. Of course, you can do whatever you want. Dongfang Zhengpai nodded. Since that's the case, I will prepare to go into seclusion. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Seclusion? What about the group of scholars? Dongfang Zhengpai asked in surprise. Don't worry. Yi Feng is here to help me. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Him? Dongfang Zhengpai looked at Yi Feng in surprise. Yin Chuan nodded. Yi Feng smiled and nodded at Dongfang Zhengpai. Dongfang Zhengpai was speechless. All right. Dongfang Zhengpai nodded speechlessly. After saying that, Yin Chuan walked back into the palace with Miao following behind him. Bang! The door of the palace slammed shut. Everyone looked at Yin Chuan and was speechless for a long time. Senior brother, is Yin Chuan really going to be a coward? Chun Ping asked in surprise. I don't know. Wang Long frowned. The two of them are coming. They are carrying 100 scrolls and that signboard. Chun Ping said in surprise. Lu Zilu squinted his eyes and looked at Yifeng and Bai Long flying over. Dongfang Zhengpai took a look and stood guard outside Dongfang Hall, spontaneously protecting Yin Chuan. In the East Palace, Miao put the books in the palace away. Don't break them, Yin Chuan said to Miao. Miao. Miao's felt hat produced a strong suction force and sucked a large number of books into it. Miao, big hooligan, why are you going into seclusion? Are you going to break through again? Miao asked in confusion. No, I want to nourish my spirit and climb to the peak. Next, there might be a fierce battle, Yin Chuan said with a faint smile. Fierce battle? Miao. Who is it? Bai Ditian, Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Yong Hall. On the high platform. Bai Long and Yifeng slowly landed on the high platform. Looking at the board in Bai Long's hand that read Fishing for Fame, the group of Confucian scholars immediately frowned. At this moment, the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators who had been invited held their breaths as they watched the people on the high platform. Who are you? Why didn't Yin Chuan come over? Chun Ping shouted. Yifeng smiled. My king wants to defeat Sima Yuntian. How can he waste time on people like you? Yifeng said indifferently. What? Chun Ping's eyes widened. I mean, you don't have the qualifications for my king to attend your literary gathering. Yifeng shook his head. At this moment it was not that Yifeng did not know how to be humble, but that he could not be humble. At this moment he was representing Yin Chuan and the country that was about to rise. How could a country lower its head? Yin Chuan is afraid. Haha. Chun Ping laughed disdainfully. Shaking his head, Yifeng said, My king disdains to make a move, but I am enough. You? Ha ha ha. Chun Ping laughed. A large number of Confucian cultivators laughed. Yifeng's cultivation was only in the essence realm. How could he fight against a group of Confucians alone? Everyone, why are you laughing? Yifeng was not angry and said indifferently, At your age. Chun Ping was about to scold him. However, he could not continue. It seemed that Yin Chuan was younger. Yifeng smiled and said, I am Yifeng. This time I am here to deliver a board for my king. I hope that everyone will not refuse. As he spoke, Bai Long handed over the Fishing for Fame board again. Chapter 485. Atlas Studios Tiger Race Encampment. The previous Tiger King, Zuo looked coldly at Qinglong. Just give it to me, Zuo said coldly. Qinglong shook his head and said, I'm sorry. Young master has instructed that I can only give it to Bai Ditian. Zuo's eyes turned cold. The surrounding tigers roared and looked at Qinglong. Let him in. Bai Ditian's voice sounded from the hall. Yes, Zuo said respectfully. Zuo looked at Qinglong indignantly and made way for him. Qinglong was quickly led into the hall. Bai Ditian held a glass cup. In the cup was bright red wine that emitted a mellow fragrance. Yin Chuan sent you? Bai Ditian asked plainly. Qinglong nodded and took out a jade pendant. Young master asked me to bring this to you. Qinglong nodded. Ha, a piece of emerald stone? One inferior grade spirit stone. I can buy a lot of it. Zuo laughed coldly. Shut up. Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed. Yes. Zuo looked at Bai Ditian in shock. Bai Ditian waved his hand. Whoosh. The jade pendant landed in Bai Ditian's hand. Zuo was confused. Bai Ditian had always been indifferent. Why did he care so much about this jade pendant? Bai Ditian touched the jade pendant gently. A look of longing, doubt, and surprise flashed across his eyes. He reached out and took out a jade pendant. Seeing this jade pendant, Zuo guessed what it was and didn't dare to interrupt. The two jade pendants were made of similar materials. Bai Ditian placed the two jade pendants together. Whoosh! It was a perfect fit. They were pieced together. Bai Ditian's eyes darkened. Then he looked coldly at Qinglong. This is a replica? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. Yes, young master just carved it. Qinglong nodded. Just carved it? How did Yanchuan know about this jade pendant? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. I don't know, but young master asked me to pass a message to you. Qinglong took a deep breath and said. Speak. I, Yanchuan, will be waiting for you at the East Hall of Julu City. Qinglong repeated without missing a word. Julu City Dongfang Hall? Bai Ditian's expression changed. Senior, I've delivered the item. I'm going back now. Goodbye. Qinglong said directly. With that, Qinglong stepped out of the hall. Swawuzhou opened his mouth to speak, but swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. Bai Ditian was completely immersed in the two jade pendants. As he looked at the jade pendants, his eyes flashed with sadness. Ha ha ha, that's great. We escaped from those bad guys again. Ditian, with this jade pendant as proof, we will never leave each other. Is that okay? No, I don't want that treasure. Immortal weapons, divine weapons, they can't compare to my jade pendant. Ditian, I don't know. Boo-hoo, how did you find out now? How did I get pregnant? What should I do? Ditian, no. Without you, what's the point of me becoming an immortal? Scenes from his previous life flashed past his mind. Looking at the jade pendant, Bai Ditian was a little dazed. His eyes even started to tear up. Swawuzhou was curious and wanted to ask, but seeing this scene, he swallowed his words. He turned around and quietly left the hall. Qinglong left the tiger tribe's camp. He flew quickly towards Julu City. Chapter 486. Meanwhile, in a forest far away from the tiger tribe's encampment, Wang Spider, who had been playing the guqin with Meng Rongrong not long ago, frowned as he watched with 10 demons. Why is he looking for Bai Ditian? Wang Spider frowned. Lord Wang, what should we do now? A demon asked with a frown. We have to complete the mission given to us by the Lord. We have to subdue all the tigers. Bai Ditian? Wang Spider frowned. Lord, what are we going to do? If we can't do it by force, we'll capture Bai Ditian and subdue the tigers. Wang Spider said in a low voice. Shall we do it now? A demon asked curiously. Wang Spider shook his head. Let's wait a little longer. This is the tiger tribe's encampment after all. If Bai Ditian escapes, all our efforts will be for naught. Let's wait a little longer. Yes. Julu City Yong Hall. Yifeng was facing off against the 60 great scholars alone. Although Yifeng's cultivation was very weak, so weak that any of the great scholars could kill Yifeng in an instant, Yifeng was not afraid at all. He was even aggressive. Yifeng smiled and said, I'm Yifeng. This time, I'm here to deliver a plaque for you. I hope that everyone will not decline. As he spoke, White Dragon once again presented the signboard with the words, Fishing for Fame. 3 plaques? Wow. Below, nearly 10,000 great scholars were in an uproar. Yifeng was the same as Yanchuan. He was too arrogant. Of course, it was one thing to be arrogant, but it was another thing to show one's position in this matter. 3 gifts? The third time? Every time he gave a plaque, the great scholar's image would be greatly damaged. Lu Zilu still dared to give the plaque back twice? If this was given to Yifeng, then the reputation of the 60 great scholars would be completely ruined. Oh, Chun Ping and the others stared. All the great scholars stared. Lu Zilu, who was in the lead, smiled faintly and stopped the great scholars. 3 plaques? Hoo-hoo, this plaque we can't afford to receive it. Better let Yanchuan keep it. Lu Zilu said coolly. Ha 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 ha, can't accept it? You will be able to accept it. The main purpose of my visit today is to deliver the plaque to all of you. Yifeng said with a smile. Yifeng spoke politely, but his meaning was obvious. Today he was here to deliver the plaque. Today he was here to slap their faces. The faces of all the Confucians darkened. Yifeng did not linger on this topic. He asked Bai Long to put the plaque aside and turned to look at the 2 words that showed the sea and the desert. Good writing, but it's a pity. Yifeng said faintly. Pity what? Great scholar Chun Ping shouted coldly. It's a pity that I've seen too much, and my standards have also improved. Don't you all still have 3 pieces of calligraphy? Let's take them out together and let everyone observe. Yifeng said with a smile. Too much? His standards had also improved? What a joke. How many have you seen? Great scholar Chun Ping said angrily. You don't believe me? Haha, my king just wrote some miscellaneous pieces for me. If you're interested, you can take a look. Yifeng said with a smile. Miscellaneous pieces? Only miscellaneous pieces? All the Confucians were immediately angered by Yifeng's arrogance. Did he want to use miscellaneous pieces to compete with my splendid work? Some of the Confucians even laughed out of anger. Yifeng was not in a hurry. He picked one from the pile of scrolls held by long everyone. There are limited steals. I wonder if anyone can help me prepare more steals so that we can share my king's book? Yifeng looked at the Confucians with a smile. Bai Long was about to say that he could make some steals, but he was stopped by Yifeng with a look. What Yifeng wanted was the participation of nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators. This way they would have a sense of immersion. Although it was only a little, it was enough. Next, no matter what he said to the 60 great Confucian cultivators, the scales in their hearts would unconsciously tilt towards him. If he was defeated, they would be united against a common enemy. If he won, they would be even more excited. I'll do it, I'll do it. Suddenly, 7 or 8 Confucian cultivators stood up, grabbed a large stone in the distance, and used magic to chop it. In the blink of an eye, 10 steels were formed. Haha. Thank you very much. Yifeng said politely. I'll have to trouble you to make a few more steels later. I have a lot of scrolls here. Yifeng said with a smile. If the calligraphy is good, we will definitely help. The Confucian cultivators immediately agreed. Yifeng nodded. He took out a scroll and gently hung it in front of the thousands of Confucians. He unfolded it. Boom! The moment the scroll was unfolded, it seemed that a loud noise rushed out of the scroll, shocking the thousands of Confucians. The expressions of the 60 great scholars changed, and a bad feeling suddenly lingered in their hearts. Rumble! The scroll was unfolded, and a rumble sounded in all directions. A giant red mist rushed out of the scroll, and the shadow in the red mist was a huge volcano. The volcano erupted and rushed into the sky, and a vast rain of fire fell from the sky. The spectacular fiery red sky and earth immediately affected everyone's hearts. So magnificent! Someone could not help but say. Before they even looked at the words, the aura that was released made countless Confucian cultivators boil. This piece of splendid writing was much more spectacular than the sea and desert on the opposite side. Those two scenes were quiet, and the sea only moved slightly. However, this volcano was a scene of a big explosion. The observation of earthly fire soaring to the heavens immediately infected all the Confucian cultivators, and countless people were boiling. The talent of the top scholar. How could it be mediocre? The words of the top scholar were surging. The thousands of Confucians worshipped it, but the 60 great scholars' faces froze at that moment. That was because that piece of calligraphy had surpassed 2 of their own. Impossible! Chun Ping murmured in disbelief. However, Yifeng turned to the great scholars and said, Yifeng, never lie. Everyone, I still have 99 pieces here for everyone to admire. Don't you still have 3 pieces? Take them all out. There are still 99 pieces? That's impossible. How can splendid writing be so easy to write? Chun Ping immediately exclaimed. Can Yin Chuan write so many in such a short time? Another great scholar shouted. That's impossible. This is definitely Yin Chuan's limit. I don't believe that there's such a marvelous writing in that pile of paintings of yours. Wang Long shouted in a low voice. Spread the word for all Confucian cultivators to admire. Lu Zilu shouted. Yes, the 3 great scholars answered. The 2 sides opposed each other, and splendid writing flew out. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately clenched their fists in excitement. Naturally, Yifeng would not let the great scholars focus on the beauty. Instead, he looked at the nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators and interacted with them again. Everyone! Yifeng shouted. The nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators immediately looked at Yifeng. My cultivation is weak, and I still have 99 pieces that my king gave me. I need your help to hang them up. Is there anyone willing? Yifeng said with a smile. I'll do it, I'll do it. I'll do it. I'll help you. On the other side, Lu Zilu's face was ugly. He still had 3 pieces of splendid writing that had not been hung up yet. It seemed that he had lost another round. Thank you. Yifeng nodded. Chapter 487. A large number of Confucian cultivators came forward, wanting to hang up books for Yifeng. Yifeng did not stand on ceremony, and allowed the group of Confucian cultivators to divide the scroll that Yan Chuan had just drawn. Rumble. The mountain rocks were constantly being split apart. Stone tablets were erected one after another, and scrolls were slowly hung on them. Boom! In the direction of the great Confucian scholar, another beautiful article appeared. A vast expanse of snowy plains. It was vast and magnificent. An icy cold aura gushed out, spotless, purifying one's heart and lungs. Before Chan Ping and the others could rejoice, another scroll unfurled. Rumble. It was like the sound of 10,000 horses galloping, and the same cold air pressed down. The painting unfurled, and a white mist rose up into the sky. There was also an endless amount of snow, but Yifeng was facing a huge avalanche. Heavy snow rolled over. The vast aura was many times stronger than that of the other side. All right. Spectacular. The realm of avalanche is like 10,000 horses galloping. A series of praises rang out. Just by looking at it, the aura of the avalanche had already suppressed the snowy plains. Impossible, how could there be another one? This must be from before, Chan Ping exclaimed. No, look at avalanche and volcano. The ink on these two chapters hasn't even dried yet. Wang Long smiled bitterly. The ink is still wet? Immediately, many people cast surprised looks at him. It's true. The ink hasn't completely dried yet. It really was written just now. A Confucian cultivator cried out in alarm. Did Yan Chuan enter the Eastern Palace Hall for a while? He wrote 2 splendid essays in a row? 2? Moreover, they are 2 extremely conflicting landscapes. There were close to 10,000 Confucian cultivators. Although their literary skills could not compare to the great Confucians, they had been in Julu City for many years. With just 2 scrolls, Yan Chuan's name would resound throughout Julu City. Impossible. Do it again. Chan Ping shouted angrily. The 60 great scholars unfurled another scroll. It was a vast grassland. As for Yifeng, the 3rd scroll was unfurled. It was a raging inferno that stretched to the heavens. The 3rd chapter? It's already the 3rd chapter? Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators were in an uproar. Although the other side's article was also good, it seemed to be much worse than Yan Chuan's. Yan Chuan's articles were all different styles? Yifeng stood at the side and smiled. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators rose to their feet and looked at the beautiful scrolls with anticipation and reverence in their eyes. Volume 4. The Stormy Sea. The 5th volume, Myriad Stars Fall. When the 10th scroll was opened, there was not a trace of noise in the surroundings, only silence. Almost 10,000 Confucian cultivators. There were no words of praise left. Splendid Miaowen? Some people had never seen such things in their entire lives, but at this moment they were popping up one after another like cabbages. At this moment, everyone was no longer looking at the distant Eastern Palace Hall with disdain. Yan Chuan? Yan Chuan indeed had the ability to establish another academy. Look at these articles. 10 articles with 10 different styles? Chapter 11. Chapter 12. The scrolls were unfurled one by one. The 60 great scholars' expressions became more and more unpleasant. How is this possible? Chan Ping exclaimed. Don't tell me these scrolls are all about splendid Miaowen? A great Confucian asked in horror. Impossible, someone else must have written them. Chan Ping shook his head in disbelief. Splendid Miaowen? No, once splendid Miaowen appears, it will spread throughout the 4 great academies. However, I have never seen these articles before. Wang Long shook his head. Chapter 488. So many. Lu Zilu's expression was ugly. The 5 pieces of splendid prose that he had brought with him could have shaken the entire place and defeated everything. However, the scene in front of him made Lu Zilu feel like he was going to collapse. How could this happen? Lu Zilu clenched his fists and his face turned green. Dongfang Zhengpai, who was standing outside the East Hall to protect Yan Chuan, also had an interesting expression. Fuck, is this for real? Dongfang Zhengpai's eyeballs were about to pop out. If not for the fact that he was protecting Yanchuan, he would have run over. Swish! A figure landed in front of Dongfang Zhengpai. Qinglong? You are back. Dongfang Zhengpai was delighted. Yes, what's wrong? Where is young master? Bai Long and the rest are here too? Qinglong was shocked. Yanchuan is in seclusion in the East Hall. You stay here and guard him. Dongfang Zhengpai instructed. After finishing his sentence, Dongfang Zhengpai flew to the opposite side. Azure Dragon was left gaping in shock, but he still solemnly accepted the mission. Not far from the East Hall, Meng Rongrong knew that the 60 great scholars had invited 10,000 scholars to participate in the literary summit and finally came to investigate. She stood in a remote corner and looked at the splendid prose in the East Hall. Behind her stood Chongqing and a few other Confucian cultivators. This is too exaggerated. This was written by Yanchuan? A Confucian cultivator exclaimed. It is the 30th piece. Another great scholar said in disbelief. Young mistress, it seems like we really misunderstood Yanchuan back then. With his literary talent, there is no need for him to be a student here. Chongqing smiled bitterly. Yes, this is Yanchuan's calligraphy chess prose. This. The Confucian cultivator at the side was speechless. Meng Rongrong looked at the tightly shut doors of the Eastern Palace Hall in the distance with a complicated look in her eyes. Humph! Meng Rongrong snorted. Although he still couldn't forgive Yanchuan, the grievances he felt in the past had suddenly lessened a lot. I'll go back first. You guys take your time. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Eldest miss, you're not watching anymore? Chongqing said in surprise. Just watch. Meng Rongrong flew off into the distance. Meng Rongrong left, but the group of Confucian cultivators were reluctant to leave. Let's go up and take a look. A Confucian cultivator said. All right. Chongqing and the others nodded. At this moment it was not just Chongqing and the others. Countless cultivators from all over Julu City were attracted by the spectacular scene. From afar one could see volcanoes, snowy plains, shooting stars, and countless other wondrous sceneries above the Yong Hall. It would be strange if they did not attract the attention of the crowd. Julu Mountain Plaza outside Julu Hall. Hall Master Meng Ziqiu and Left Hall Master Yu Yi also looked at the scene in confusion. Yu Yi, what do you think? Meng Ziqiu asked with a strange expression. I don't know, but I know that Sima Yuntian must have met his match. Yu Yi said with a strange expression. There's more to fighting for the God investiture strategy. However, this Yanchuan is indeed an interesting person. Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. Good writing, really good writing. Yu Yi praised as he looked at the writing in the distance. Outside the Yong Hall. It was quiet, but everyone knew that today. Yanchuan had completely shaken Julu City. That was 60 splendid essays. And it was still going on. For a moment, the surroundings of the Yong Hall were incomparably beautiful. In front of Yanchuan's vast amount of wonderful writings, the 5 splendid writings of the 60 great scholars were completely overshadowed. Yifeng smiled as he looked at the essays. Chapter 489. On the other side, the 60 great scholars all had dark expressions. I don't believe it, I don't believe it. There must be plagiarism, there must be. Chen Ping kept reading Yanchuan's splendid prose, hoping to find a plagiarized one. But how could he find one? 70, 80, 90. All of these were the first interviews. Almost all of the scholars stood on Yifeng's side. The 60 great scholars holding another summit was simply making a wedding dress for someone else. Senior brother, let's go. Today we have completely lost. Wang Long revealed a hint of bitterness. You want to leave? Take the plaque given by my king and don't send it back. Yifeng immediately laughed. The white dragon immediately stuffed the signboard of Fishing for Fame into the hands of a great scholar. Looking at the white robe in his hand, the great scholar's expression became extremely ugly. Boom! The 100th splendid prose was hung up. 100 scrolls of splendid prose seemed to be pieced together to form a magnificent mountain and river. Whoosh! The Confucian cultivators' eyes were full of fanaticism. Some of them were a bit breathless from looking at these splendid prose. All of them looked towards the Eastern Hall with more than just admiration. It was as if a literature grandmaster was sitting there. Virtuous paragon? Yin Chuan was a virtuous paragon. In a short period of time, 100 splendid pros. If this was not a virtuous paragon, then who was? Virtuous paragon, Yin Chuan, the role model of our generation. Yin Chuan is a true virtuous paragon. These 100 splendid pros can shake the world. The Confucian cultivators were not stingy with their words of praise. The great scholars had received too many blows, and many of them wanted to leave. However, Lu Zilu calmed down and didn't leave. Instead, he looked at Yifeng. If he really left this time, then it would be a complete admission of defeat. The 72 great scholars' reputation would be completely ruined. Even Sima Yuntian would be seen as someone fishing for fame. Leave? He couldn't leave. Poetry is only one path. Yifeng, do you dare to compete with us in splendid prose? Lu Zilu shouted. When Lu Zilu shouted, many of those who worshipped Yin Chuan looked at him with disdain. Lu Zilu's words were too unbecoming of a great Confucian scholar. He had lost to such an extent? Still not letting go? Fight Zhuan again? Do you want to get back at me through other means? Lu Zilu didn't want to say it, but he had no choice but to say it now. If he didn't say it now, he wouldn't have a chance to fight back. The group of Confucian scholars looked at Lu Zilu in surprise, but they soon understood what Lu Zilu meant. Yo, you're really giving Sima Yuntian face. Dongfang Zhengpai laughed. What did you say? Eastern Orthodox sect, what is the meaning of this? The group of Confucian scholars scolded. Dongfang Zhengpai shrugged his shoulders and said no more. However, the meaning behind his words couldn't be more obvious. With nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators, who wouldn't understand? He was scolding them for being shameless. More and more Confucian cultivators revealed looks of disdain. Everyone, how do you want to fight? Yifeng smiled. Yifeng came here to buy time for Yin Chuan so that the group of Confucian scholars wouldn't quarrel every other day. Go. Lu Zilu said solemnly. Yifeng suddenly revealed a strange smile and said, My king guessed right. You really want to fight? Zither, Go, calligraphy, and painting were all defeated in poetry. They definitely didn't dare to fight in calligraphy. Painting and calligraphy had many similarities, so the Confucian scholars definitely didn't dare to fight in calligraphy. As for the zither, it was the most difficult to cultivate. If the Confucian scholars could use their full strength, it would be best for them to fight in chess. What's wrong? Are you afraid? Chunping shouted. I'm not afraid. I just feel that you're quite sad. Yifeng said indifferently. Quite sad. The group of Confucian scholars was immediately choked by Yifeng's words. Come, I'll fight you too. Let's see how capable you so-called great Confucian scholars are. Yifeng said indifferently. You. Chunping showed a hint of disdain. No matter what, he was only helping Yin Chuan to win. It wasn't Yifeng's own ability. What? You don't believe me again? Yifeng said with a smile. The word again was like a slap to Chunping's face. Again? Why did he say again? Chapter 490. Yifeng defeats all the Confucians. Zhulu City, in the Yong Hall. Yifeng swung his robe and slowly sat down. He looked at great scholar Chunping. There was a chessboard between the two of them. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators watched quietly. Humph, do you think Immortal knows how to play chess? I'll show you what chess is. Chunping sat down slowly. Yifeng smiled and said, Chess? It's not about words. Beat me first. Yifeng was extremely confident. He had only lost one game in chess when he met Yin Chuan, but he had never lost before. This was Yifeng's specialty. Even in the cultivation world, Yifeng was still proud of it. Do you want me to give you a handicap? Chunping asked. Yifeng looked at Chunping and finally said with a smile, with just this sentence, I know that I overestimated you. You? Chunping glared. Clap. Yifeng placed a black piece. Chunping suppressed the anger in his heart and began to place his piece as well. Clap. Clap. After Chunping placed his piece, Yifeng placed another piece. It was very fast. Chunping frowned slightly and placed another piece. Pa. Yifeng seemed to not even think as he placed another piece. Yifeng placed his piece. Nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators looked at him curiously. Can this Yifeng person really do it? Yeah, I want to see Yanchuan play chess. He's only in the essence state. He must have been immortal not long ago. What can immortal do? Disdain came from all around. No, I know Yifeng's chess skills. A voice suddenly sounded. Oh! Many Confucian cultivators turned their heads. Brother Chongqing? Brother Chongqing, you know Yifeng? Immediately, Chongqing was recognized. Yes, and I've seen him play chess with Yanchuan. Their chess skills are definitely at the level of great Confucians. Many of the great Confucians in Julu City can't even compare to them. Chongqing shook his head. Ah, is that true? He played chess with Yanchuan? Then who won? The first game was won by Yanchuan. The second. So Yanchuan is Yanchuan? Can Yifeng win? Will definitely win, I'm sure of it. Chongqing said seriously. Ha ha ha, how can you? If you don't believe me, how about we make a bet? Do with the painting you art you? Is it Chuan Air? It's a deal. Although there were many doubtful voices, Yanchuan's 100 essays had already won the hearts of the Confucian cultivators. Now they didn't reject Yifeng as much. Smack! 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 Yifeng's chess pieces were very fast. Each piece was faster than the last. Scholar Chunping was fine at the beginning, but after 20 pieces, Scholar Chunping's face turned ugly. Is this a game of chess? Is he crazy? He doesn't even want to think about it? Someone scolded. Yifeng, however, remained motionless and continued to place his pieces. Gradually, each of them placed down 50 pieces. The entire chessboard had entered a mysterious state. Chunping's disdain gradually turned serious, and he even looked at the chessboard with some panic. As Yifeng placed more and more pieces, Chunping found that his pieces were being pushed back. Clack! Yifeng placed another piece. Just as Chunping was about to place his piece, Yifeng said indifferently, "You lost." Ah! Chunping grabbed a white piece and looked at Yifeng in shock. Chapter 491. What? What did you just say? Chunping's expression turned extremely ugly. I said you've lost. Save some face for yourself. Yifeng said indifferently. Bastard, we're only halfway through the game. How can you say that I've lost? Chunping glared at him. Countless Confucian cultivators in the surroundings also looked curious. Had Yifeng lost his mind? They were only halfway through the game, and Chunping's situation on the board was very good. Had he lost? How had he lost? The Confucian scholars behind Chunping frowned at this moment. A few of them had complicated expressions. Chunping, you've lost. Lu Zilu sighed faintly. Huh. Exclamations of surprise came from all around. If Yifeng had said that Chunping had lost, they would have thought that Yifeng was trying to please the crowd or that Yifeng had lost his mind. But now even Lu Zilu said that Chunping had lost? I don't believe it. I don't believe it. How can an ordinary person defeat me? Chunping immediately said hatefully. He quickly placed another piece. Yifeng smiled slightly and said, I've saved your face, but you don't want it. Forget it. Watch me slay the dragon. Smack. 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 As the pieces fell, Yifeng's expression remained indifferent, but Chunping's face grew darker and darker. He looked like he was about to die. After 10 pieces, Yifeng placed a piece. He immediately plucked 10 white pieces from Chunping. He placed another piece and plucked 15 white pieces from Chunping. Then he placed another piece and plucked 8 white pieces from Chunping. Slay the dragon? That was more than slay the dragon. Chunping was utterly defeated. It was not 1 or 2 pieces but 2 pieces. In just a short while, the entire board was dominated by black pieces. Chunping had been utterly defeated. When had he ever played such a humiliating game? In the end, he was almost completely wiped out. Completely wiped out? This was Go, not Chinese chess. How could one be completely wiped out in this game? Clack! Yifeng placed another piece. You're the one who lost your face. You can't blame anyone else. Yifeng shook his head and sighed. Grabbing a white go stone, Chunping felt like he was going crazy. There was not a single place to place a go stone on the entire go board. He couldn't fall any further. Chunping continued to stare at the chessboard for the time it takes for an incense stick to burn. Pooh! Spitting out a mouthful of blood, Chunping fainted. Junior brother. Junior martial brother. The group of Confucian scholars stepped forward. You call yourself a great scholar with this kind of mentality? No wonder His Majesty gave you a plaque. Yifeng said mercilessly. Give a plaque? Fishing for fame? You. The group of Confucian scholars immediately shouted angrily. Hua! The Confucian cultivators who had previously been immersed in the chessboard suddenly came to their senses. Amazing, this chess game is too terrifying. Yeah, all the white pieces? It's raining? Are you kidding me? If I hadn't seen it with my own eyes, I wouldn't have dared to believe that he could wipe out the other party in Go. Gasps of admiration rang out from all around. Everyone was cheering for the stunning game of Go. Haha, I won. Remember, that painting is mine. Chongqing said with a smile to a Confucian cultivator who had made a bet with him. Chongqing, who is this Yifeng? Also, Yifeng's Go skills are so exaggerated. What about Yin Chuan's Go skills? Immediately, there was a commotion in the surroundings. Yifeng, on the other hand, looked at the other Confucian scholars. Is there anyone else who would like to challenge me? Yifeng said with a smile. I'll do it. Another Confucian said with a cold face. Outside the Yong Hall, after the One Clan had shaken the entire city, the Go game had become the new focus. Yifeng had single-handedly defeated 60 great Confucian scholars? What a huge gimmick. For a moment, all the Confucian cultivators who liked to play Go in Julu City came over. Chapter 492. Few days later. Mount Julu outside Julu Palace. Meng Ziqiu, Meng Rongrong, and Yui stood in the square, looking in the direction of Yong Palace. This Yifeng is incredible. There are already 15 great scholars, and they are all defeated. Yui exclaimed. His chess skills are indeed superb. Moreover, his moves are aggressive. Meng Ziqiu said. Aggressive? His moves are not aggressive. Yin Chuan's moves are aggressive. Meng Rongrong shook her head and said with a complicated expression. Oh. Here, this is the first game they played. Meng Rongrong took out a chess record. Meng Ziqiu and Yui immediately read it. Good move. Very impressive. Yui praised. Yes, few of the great scholars of the Julu Academy can surpass his skill. Meng Ziqiu nodded. Yin Chuan's moves are very aggressive. The first piece, Tianyuan. The last piece, Zhouwu. Yuyi's expression changed. Tianyuan. Zhouwu. Meng Ziqiu frowned and pondered. Back then, Yifeng was playing blind chess. Yin Chuan was running errands everywhere. He was running errands while playing chess. Meng Rongrong said. What? The two of them were shocked. Looking at the game, the two of them were speechless for a long time. Yui, what do you think? Meng Ziqiu asked with a bitter smile. In the past, we underestimated the people of the world. Yui said bitterly. Immortal? How could the two of them have imagined that Immortal could play such exquisite chess? In Yong Palace, Yifeng dominated the game. He played aggressively, and the great scholars were defeated one by one. At this moment, no one looked down on Yifeng. His chess skills alone had won everyone's respect. At this moment, Yifeng became the new focus. Not far away in Dongfang Palace, the surroundings of the Eastern Palace were suddenly filled with fog, enveloping the entire floating island of the Eastern Palace. Although some people found out, no one went to disturb Yin Chuan. At the entrance of the East Hall, Qing Long was sitting cross-legged with his eyes closed, guarding the entrance. Suddenly, his eyes opened and he shouted, Who is it? Qing Long immediately stood up, his face full of vigilance. Who? A white figure suddenly appeared. Bai Ditian? Qing Long's eyes widened. Bai Ditian's arrival was too strange. Qing Long only noticed him when he was right in front of them. Qing Long immediately felt like he was facing a great enemy. Qing Long, you don't have to worry about what's happening here. Go to the Yong Hall and follow Bai Long to protect Yifeng. Yin Chuan's voice came from the East Hall. Ah! Qing Long was surprised. Go. Yin Chuan said from within the palace. Yes. Azure Dragon nodded with a hint of surprise. Stepping forward, Qing Long flew out of the foggy area and headed straight for Yifeng. Qing Long left. Rumble. The door to the palace slowly opened. A kitten was pushing the door with its buttocks. Aya aya aya. Meow struggled to push the door. Bai Ditian frowned in surprise as he looked at Miao, who was pushing the door with all her might. Miao. The door finally opened. Come in. Remember to close the door. Miao called out to Bai Ditian. As she spoke, she skipped back into the palace. Bai Ditian's expression changed slightly. Finally, he stepped in. Clang. The moment Bai Ditian entered the East Hall, he waved his sleeves, and the door to the palace slammed shut. When Bai Ditian entered the East Hall, at the peak of a mountain not far away, King Spider brought 10 great demons over as well. Spider King frowned when he saw the commotion in the Yong Hall. My lord, should we take action? A great demon asked. This is a heaven-sent opportunity. Bai Ditian actually came to the East Hall? That's good too. The fog outside the East Hall is just right for us to set up an array to capture Bai Ditian. Spider King said. Set up an array? That's right. We can't make any mistakes when setting up an array. Let's go. Spider King said. Yes. The great demons nodded. Chapter 493. Atlas Studios Julu City, Dongfang Hall. Bai Ditian entered the hall, and the door slammed shut. Yin Chuan had renovated the Dongfang Hall, making it extremely spacious. Everything was stored in Miao's felt hat. Only a table, a chair, and some luminous pearls were left. Yin Chuan sat in the south facing north waiting for Bai Ditian. Please. Yin Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression and slowly sat down. Miao jumped to the side and hugged a spirit stone. As she chewed on it, she looked at the two of them curiously. There was a teapot on the table. Yin Chuan poured 2 cups of tea and handed one to Bai Ditian. You know my background? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. Without asking about his wife, Bai Ditian looked coldly at Yin Chuan. Reincarnated and recultivated? Paragon of the tiger race? Yin Chuan smiled. Since you know my identity, you still dare to be alone with me? This white tiger's bloodline is of a higher grade than mine. Aren't you afraid that I will refine it? Bai Ditian looked at Miao indifferently. Miao! Miao roared at Bai Ditian angrily. Yin Chuan smiled and said, I have studied your history. You have been proud all your life. You would not do such a thing. Furthermore, with me around, you will not be able to touch Miao. Is that so? You? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Yin Chuan smiled faintly as his eyes suddenly widened. A domineering emperor's intent surged out. Roar! Suddenly, a golden dragon emerged from Yin Chuan's eyes. It had 2 horns, and its eyes were filled with anger as it roared towards the heavens. As it roared, it tore through the air. The dragon's roar was loud as it pounced towards Bai Ditian. Seeing this huge golden dragon, Bai Ditian's expression changed. Bai Ditian did not want to be outdone. He glared. Bai Ditian's intent surged out. Roar! A huge white tiger roared and charged out from Bai Ditian's eyes. The tiger's head was extremely domineering. As it opened its mouth, it looked as if it wanted to swallow the world. The ferocious tiger charged towards the golden dragon. Boom! The dragon and tiger came into contact with each other. Yin Chuan's emperor's intent and Bai Ditian's white Ditian's intent. Under the collision, the entire hall was instantly filled with endless golden and white light. Pa! Pa! A large number of night luminescent pearls exploded under the impact of this light. Roar! Roar! Dragon and tiger contending for supremacy. Just the aftershocks of their wills were enough to shake the void. The 2 domineering wills clashed, trying to kill each other. A dragon and a tiger were tearing at each other with a power that could split the sky. They were evenly matched. Bang! Bang is bang bang bang. Studios Ditian NNN Buddha Lion Studios NN Studios bang. The force of the collision between the dragon and tiger grew stronger and stronger. As they tore at each other, a powerful aura spread out in all directions of the main hall. Perhaps the 2 experts were controlling it well, but the impact of their wills did not leak out of the eastern hall. Boom! 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 It was like mountains colliding again and again. As the dragon and tiger collided, Yin Chuan and Bai Ditian stared at each other. Their eyes were filled with malevolence. Bai Ditian did not expect Yin Chuan's intent to be so domineering. It was so domineering that he could not do anything about it. Yin Chuan was the same. However, Yin Chuan was more excited. The stronger Bai Ditian was, the better. At the same time, Yin Chuan kept urging his intent to make the golden dragon stronger and roar more loudly. The dragon and tiger fight. No one could do anything to the other. But no one was willing to stop. Chapter 494. Just like that, the dragon and tiger tore each other apart. 6 hours later, rumble. The Providence in Julu City suddenly started to churn. Roar! Roar! The 5 golden dragons above Julu City suddenly roared as if they had sensed Yin Chuan's golden dragon. The roars caused the Providence clouds to churn. The commoners in the city did not think much of it, but Meng Ziqiu's eyes suddenly widened. Headmaster, what's going on? Yui rushed into the main hall. Dragon's aura. Dragon's aura has appeared in Julu City. Furthermore, it has provoked the golden dragon of Julu City. Meng Ziqiu said with an ugly expression. Dragon's aura? How is that possible? Yui said in shock. Inform all the scholars to search for the dragon's aura. Find out which Dragon Realm martial artist is here. Meng Ziqiu said with an ugly expression. Dragon Realm martial artist? Yui frowned. To be able to provoke the golden dragon of Julu City, it is naturally not a small matter. This Dragon Realm martial artist should be an Upper Void Realm martial artist. Go quickly. There might be a misunderstanding. Meng Ziqiu said in a low voice. All right. Yui quickly rushed out of the main hall. Meng Ziqiu also walked out of the main hall and looked up at the churning Providence in the sky. Who is it? The 8th Division Heavenly Dragon of the West? It can't be him. But who could it be? Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Roar! Roar! Outside the East Hall, a dragon's roar suddenly sounded. Yin Chuan and Bai Ditian's eyes narrowed. Boom! After the dragon and tiger collided for the last time, they immediately split apart. The East Hall seemed to have been divided in an instant. Half of it was a dragon and the other half was a tiger. The dragon and tiger did not give in to either. Whoosh! Suddenly, the dragon and tiger disappeared. The main hall instantly turned pitch black. Meow! Meow quickly poured out a large number of night luminescent pearls, and the main hall lit up again. True dragon's intent? Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan in shock. White tiger's intent? Yin Chuan said in a low voice. The will of a voider. Are you also a reincarnated person? Bai Ditian's face darkened as he asked. Yin Chuan smiled, tacitly agreeing. Yin Chuan was born from usurping life. It was not as simple as reincarnating. However, at this moment, Yin Chuan tacitly agreed to reincarnate. Meow? Yin Chuan, really? Meow was also surprised. Yin Chuan looked at Bai Ditian and said indifferently, I know that you are not the type to gossip, so you know that I don't mind. Yin Chuan should have kept this a secret. However, after what had just happened, Yin Chuan felt that he had to obtain Bai Ditian. This person must be tied together. Meow, Yin Chuan, are you really a reincarnated person? Meow was suddenly very interested. Yin Chuan glanced at Meow and said, according to my speculation, you are also a reincarnated tiger. We all are. Meow? Meow's excitement suddenly disappeared. Me too. Meow pointed at herself with her little paw, confused. What was going on? She was just about to talk about Yin Chuan. Why did she get dragged into this? Think about it yourself. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow stretched out her 2 front paws and looked at them carefully. I'm also a reincarnated person? Why didn't I know? Ignoring Meow, Yin Chuan looked at Bai Ditian. Did you receive that jade pendant? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. At this moment, Bai Ditian no longer looked at Yin Chuan with the same arrogance as before. Although he did not look arrogant on the surface, there was definitely a sense of pride in his heart. It was an arrogance that looked down on all living things. Although he said that he was equal to Yin Chuan, he was biased in his heart. Chapter 495. However, things were different now. Yin Chuan's emperor's will had proven that Yin Chuan had the qualifications to be on par with him. In fact, the clash of wills just now had not revealed anything about Yin Chuan. How powerful was the Golden Dragon's will? Yin Chuan's clash of wills, and he had even exposed his own secret, was largely to show that they were on par. Only when they were on par would the other party be able to accept many things. Jade pendant? Why do you have that jade pendant? Bai Ditian's face suddenly turned cold. That was Bai Ditian's wife's jade pendant. There was only one jade pendant in the world, and it had never been made public. How did Yin Chuan know about it? Bai Ditian's eyes flashed with worry as he thought about his wife in his previous life. In my previous life, I had a good friend called Bai Tu Shi. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Bai Tu Shi. Bai Ditian frowned slightly. This jade pendant belonged to him. It had been with him since he was born. It's the key to the mystery of his birth. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Since he was born? The mystery of his birth? Bai Ditian's face was filled with shock. At that moment, how could Bai Ditian not understand what Yin Chuan meant? It had been more than 8,000 years. It was time for his son to be born. After 8,000 years he was called Bai Tu Shi? Bai Tu Shi? Bai Tu Shi? Bai Ditian suddenly laughed happily. He had a son. He had a son. Bai Ditian was excited. After laughing for a while, Bai Ditian suddenly looked at Yin Chuan. You reincarnated from the celestial world? Celestial world? Perhaps. Anyway, I knew Bai Tu Shi in my previous life. Yin Chuan said with a smile. What does he look like? Is he well now? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with anticipation. Even Bai Ditian's voice was trembling. In the past, Bai Ditian had thought that nothing in the world could affect his emotions. Now, his heart was trembling uncontrollably. I'm not sure if he's well now. After all, I've been reborn. However, a few days ago I drew a picture. It's Bai Tu Shi. Yin Chuan said. As he spoke, Yin Chuan stretched out his hand. Meow. Meow quickly took out a scroll from her felt hat. Bai Ditian immediately took it. He was a little expectant, but he didn't dare to open it. After a while he slowly unrolled the scroll. The scroll unfurled. In the painting there was a huge black tiger. The black tiger was roaring and its ferocious aura was threatening. The aura of a tiger dominating the world was vividly displayed on the paper. However, on the right eye of this black tiger was a huge scar. Under the scar, the right eye was simply broken. The right eye was blind, and only the left eye remained. What's going on? Who did it? Who did it? Bai Ditian's eyes immediately turned vicious. Bai Tu Shi? Bai Ditian was filled with guilt towards this son that he had never met before. It had been 8,000 years, but he had not been able to give him any fatherly care. He felt that he had let down this son of his. This was also the reason why he felt guilty and didn't dare to open the painting. But now, one of Bai Tu Shi's eyes was blind in the painting. His precious son had been blinded by someone? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with viciousness. Do you know about Bai Tu Shi's childhood? Yin Chuan didn't answer his question. Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan. At this moment, Bai Tu Shi's appearance had thrown Bai Ditian's mind into chaos. The series of plans that he had prepared to intimidate Yin Chuan were all messed up. After Bai Tu Shi was born, he was abandoned in the forest. He said that he had never seen his parents. He only had a jade pendant and a small jade tablet with his name engraved on it. When he opened his eyes, the first thing he saw was the corpse of a wild wolf. He only managed to survive by drinking the wolf's blood. Yin Chuan said. How could this be? How could this be? Bai Ditian's heart was filled with pain. In the forest, a tiger cub was surrounded by danger. He only managed to survive by eating some rotting corpses. His life was miserable, and he struggled on the verge of death several times. It wasn't easy for him to grow up. He said that what he wanted to know the most was why his parents were so heartless to leave him alone. Yin Chuan sighed softly. Bai Ditian clenched his fists, his heart filled with guilt. Chapter 496. In the forest there was a tiger cub that was surrounded by danger. He only managed to survive by secretly eating some rotten corpses. His life was miserable and he struggled on the line between life and death several times. It was not easy for him to grow up. He said that what he wanted to know the most was why his parents were so heartless to leave him alone. Yin Chuan sighed slightly. Bai Ditian clenched his fists tightly, his heart filled with guilt. That's impossible. Where's his mother? Bai Ditian looked at Yan Chuan with worry in his eyes. I don't know. He had never seen his mother. He only had the jade pendant and the wooden plaque with his name on it. He said that he waited for a long time in the forest. It had been 1,000 years, 2,000 years, but no one came to acknowledge him. Yan Chuan sighed. What happened? Where's Aji? Where did Aji go? Why did he leave his son behind? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with worry. It was when he was 3,000 years old. He was still waiting for his parents in the forest. His parents did not come, but 3 peerless experts came. I don't know why, but they targeted Bai Tushur and tried to kill him. The 3 of them were as strong as Bai Tushur. Bai Tushur fought against the 3 of them alone. In the end, his eyes were blinded by one of them. Yan Chuan recalled. Who dared to hurt my son? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with anger. I'm not sure. I only know that they came from a place called Zhugong. Yan Chuan said. Zhugong? Zhugong? Bai Ditian's eyes were filled with killing intent. I've known about Bai Tushur for a long time. I knew what he was capable of. I invited Bai Tushur many times to fight for a place with me, but he couldn't bear to leave the forest. He refused to leave the forest. One day I brought some good wine and went to have a drink with him. I also wanted to persuade him to go with me. When I got there I saw that scene. Therefore we fought side by side with him. It was a very fierce battle, and we finally killed 2 out of the 3 experts and captured the last one. Yan Chuan recalled. Thank you, Bai Ditian said solemnly. Although Yan Chuan made it sound easy, it was not hard to tell how dangerous it was. After all, Bai Tushur was saved by Yan Chuan. That peerless expert was also stubborn. He only forced out Zhugong and left behind a sentence, Palace Master Zhugong will take revenge for him. Then he blew himself up and committed suicide. Yan Chuan sighed. A peerless expert as a sacrificial warrior? Zhugong? What kind of existence is that? Bai Ditian asked in surprise. I'm not sure. Bai Tushur has never offended Zhugong, but Zhugong somehow managed to find him. I've been studying him for a long time, and I've only come to one conclusion. It might be a grudge left behind by his parents. Yan Chuan sighed. Aji is still alive? Bai Ditian's eyes flashed with hope. I don't know. At the very least, he should still be alive when the experts from Zhugong killed Bai Tushur. Zhugong is obviously targeting Bai Tushur and his mother. Yan Chuan said after some thought. Zhugong, how dare you hurt my wife and son? Bai Ditian's tone was cold, and a murderous aura emerged from his body. The love of his life, his only son, was now missing. Bai Ditian's only concern was being hunted down by Zhugong. How could Bai Ditian not be angry? How could he not hate them? After so many years of guilt, he did not have time to make up for it. Instead, his son was blinded by Zhugong. Bai Ditian hated that he could not immediately ascend to the celestial world and head to Zhugong to kill everything. That battle was extremely tragic. The forest that Bai Tushur had been guarding was razed to the ground. Blinded, Bai Tushur looked at it in despair and said, I won't wait for my parents anymore. Yan Chuan sighed. Chapter 497. Don't wait for father and mother anymore? Bai Ditian's eyes suddenly moistened. How desperate must one be to say something like that? Don't wait for father and mother anymore? Don't wait for them anymore? Don't wait for them anymore? It was as if he could hear his son's desperate voice. That voice was filled with desolation, and it echoed in Bai Ditian's mind again and again. How terrible of a parent must one be to make their son say something like that? How desperate must one be to say something like that? My son. Bai Ditian grabbed his teacup, and the tea in it kept shaking. Bai Ditian's heart was filled with sorrow and regret. He was alone in silence. Imagine. Yan Chuan sighed slightly and did not say anything else. Indeed, Bai Ditian needed time to digest all of this. Yan Chuan waited quietly. Miao also jumped into Yan Chuan's arms and said with pity, This Bai Tushur is so pitiful. Yan Chuan stroked Miao's fur and nodded without saying anything. Bai Ditian was immersed in that inexplicable sorrow. The hall fell into dead silence. At this moment, a voice suddenly sounded from outside the hall. Ha 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 ha, Bai Ditian. come out and surrender. An arrogant voice sounded from outside the hall. My lord, the array has been completed. Bai Ditian cannot escape. Another voice sounded excitedly. Voices targeting Bai Ditian could be heard from outside. Yan Chuan looked up and looked in the direction of the door in shock. Who is courting death? Why did they have to choose now? Yan Chuan looked at Bai Ditian and thought about what he had just said. He was sure that the people outside were miserable. If it was another time, with Bai Ditian's magnanimity, he might not be so calculative. However, he had to choose now, when Bai Ditian's emotions were greatly affected. At this moment, it was difficult to calm Bai Ditian down. At this moment, just as Yan Chuan thought, Bai Ditian was in self-blame and sorrow. His son had suffered so much, but he could not do anything. His son was in despair, but he was not by his side. He should be the worst father. Why was he not by his side? Why? Bai Ditian's emotions became increasingly irritable as he blamed himself and grieved. As he held the teacup, the tea in the teacup trembled. It was as if it could sense that a peerless demon was about to erupt, and it trembled in fear. Bai Ditian was about to explode, but he still forcefully restrained himself. Suddenly, there was a commotion outside that was directed at him. Bai Ditian's eyes turned cold as a bone-piercing killing intent surged out of his body. Because of this murderous aura, the temperature in the Eastern Palace suddenly dropped a lot. Frost suddenly formed on the ground, making cracking sounds, and white snow suddenly drifted in the air. A bone-chilling murderous aura. Bai Ditian released a strong murderous aura. Bai Ditian's eyes were bloodshot as he glared at the door of the palace. Outside the East Hall. Originally, there was a thick fog, and a concealment array prevented the outside world from seeing what was inside. At the same time, it also blocked some outsiders. However, the spell formation was too simple. It couldn't stop Spider King and the 10 other greater demons. The 11 great Yaos quickly entered the interior. Outside, the white fog was still there. Once they entered the sky above the floating island, they quickly formed a formation. Each of them held a Dharma flag and stuck it in the 4 corners of the Eastern Palace. Suddenly, yellow gas filled the air, and a huge Dharma spell net was formed. The yellow net enveloped the entire Eastern Palace. There were no blind spots, and the people inside could not escape. Chapter 498. My lord, once this black-yellow flag array is activated, even an expert at the Middle Void Realm can forget about escaping. With the addition of the 11 of us at the Lower Void Realm, Bai Ditian won't have any chance of escaping this time. King Spider stood in front of the array and looked surprised. It seems like I overestimated Bai Ditian. Oh, we set up the array in the East Hall, but Bai Ditian didn't sense anything? Until now, he still hasn't reacted? King Spider sneered. Bai Ditian might have been scared silly. A demon said with a laugh. Ha 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 ha. A group of demons laughed. Ask him to come out. King Spider said with a laugh. Ha 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 ha. Bai Ditian, come out and surrender. A demon said with a laugh. Another demon who was stabilizing the array laughed and said, my lord, the array is completed. Bai Ditian can't escape. King Spider nodded in satisfaction. At this moment, Bai Ditian was already trapped. King Spider wasn't worried at all. He waited quietly. Finally, the door to the East Hall opened. Clang! The door to the East Hall opened. Boom! In the main hall, a gust of icy cold air suddenly gushed out. Boom! Boom! The icy aura went straight for the black-yellow flag array. Crack! 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 A thick layer of ice suddenly formed around the black-yellow flag array. The array covered the East Hall like a net, but it shook slightly at this moment. What's going on? Icy aura. A group of demons looked at this scene in shock. As for King Spider, his pupils constricted. Although he didn't know what was going on, he suddenly felt very uneasy. Uneasy? Why would he feel uneasy? Dong! 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 Sounds of footsteps could be heard coming from the hall. Bai Ditian was dressed in a white robe as he walked out of the East Hall. Yan Chuan and Miao followed behind him. Bai Ditian stepped out of the hall. Outside the hall, a cold wind blew. There was a sharp whistling sound. The 10 demons in the array suddenly felt their hair stand on end, and a chill filled their bodies. The demons shivered and looked around in shock. Why did the weather suddenly change? However, he soon stopped caring about the weather. Instead, he stared at Bai Ditian, who was like a turtle in a jar. Bai Ditian stepped out of the East Hall. His face was gloomy, and his eyes were bloodshot. Killing intent radiated from him as he looked in the direction of the Spider King. That cold and ferocious gaze made King Spider feel as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. What kind of gaze was that? Ha ha ha, Bai Ditian, you finally come out. You'd better surrender now so that you won't have to suffer any physical pain. A great demon shouted recklessly. Yan Chuan turned his head and looked at the smug greater demon in surprise. A look of pity flashed in his eyes. You can't blame anyone for your bad luck. King Spider was about to shout at the great demon to stop talking, but it was too late. He had succeeded and attracted Bai Ditian's hatred. Bai Ditian had been suppressing his anger for a long time, and had not found a way to vent it. Now, someone had suddenly delivered themselves to his doorstep? Bai Ditian turned his head, and his face suddenly turned ferocious. His eyes were bloodshot, and he roared at the great demon with great hatred. Roar! There was a loud roar, and the surrounding air started to vibrate violently. A tiger's roar and a dragon's roar were the two most domineering sounds in the world. Bai Ditian's roar, which carried great destruction, brought out his immense hatred and domineering aura. A tiger's roar was directed at the great demon. The tiger's roar soared into the sky, and it suddenly pierced through the clouds and into the 9 heavens. A vast tiger's roar suddenly reverberated in all directions, and it spread throughout the entire Julu city. In an instant, the entire city was filled with the sound of a tiger's roar. The tiger's roar was so loud that it drowned out all other sounds. It was like thunder from the 9 heavens that suddenly exploded. Roar! Chapter 499. The tiger's roar was like thunder from the 9 heavens. Many small lakes in Julu City suddenly exploded, and the lake water shot up into the sky. Boom! 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 The entire Julu City was in a panic. Countless cultivators looked at the sky in fear. What's going on? Who dares to cause trouble in Julu City? Who is it? Countless cultivators who came to participate in the Heavenly Bestowment Conference walked out of their residences and looked at the sky in shock, towards the East Hall. From afar, they could vaguely see the head of a fierce tiger roaring loudly. The head of a fierce tiger? It was transparent and vaguely, it seemed to be formed by the dense wind. The tiger's roar resounded through the heavens and earth. Countless cultivators revealed shocked expressions. How powerful was this tiger's roar? At least at this moment, not many cultivators dared to fly close to it. This was because everyone could feel a sense of anger and hatred from the tiger's roar. Who would dare to provoke that peerless expert at this moment? Watching from afar, the Heavenly Bestowment Conference had yet to begin, but Julu City was full of exciting events. Julu Mountain. Meng Rongrong walked out of the hall and looked towards the East Hall in shock. Looking at the tiger's roar in the sky, Meng Rongrong frowned. She did not know why, but she suddenly felt worried. She stepped forward and flew towards the East Hall. At the entrance of the Julu Hall, Meng Ziqiu looked towards the East Hall and frowned. Louis walked closer. Headmaster, this voice, Louis said with a complicated expression. It's Bai Ditian. Only he is so powerful among the tigers near the Julu Academy, Meng Ziqiu said confidently. Bai Ditian? Causing trouble in my Julu city? Louis said with an ugly expression. No, he's not here for our Julu city. Inform all the scholars to stay put. Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Stay put? What if Bai Ditian really causes trouble in Julu city? Louis said worriedly. No, Bai Ditian is a person who distinguishes between kindness and hatred. Our Julu Academy has never let him down. In the past 8,000 years we have helped the tigers a lot. Bai Ditian will not cause too big a commotion. Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Louis nodded. Meng Ziqiu took a deep breath and said, after today, follow me to the Tiger Clan's encampment. All right. Louis nodded. The tiger's roar reverberated throughout Julu City. Not far from the East Hall, the thousands of scholars who were watching the game felt it the most. Under this powerful tiger roar, the entire Yong Palace's floating island shook as if it was about to collapse. What's going on? My ears ate. What a powerful voice. The Tin Tin Tin's Ru White Dragon, Azure Dragon and Dongfang Zhengpai all looked at Dongfang Dian in astonishment. The three of them looked worried. Will young master be all right? Qing Long was about to rush over anxiously. Bai Long and Dongfang Zhengpai also wanted to go over. Don't move. Yifeng suddenly shouted. Yifeng held a black chess piece in his hand and said without turning his head. What? Bai Long and the others paused. Our king said that the East Palace is not something we can interfere with. No one needs to go. Our king will deal with it. Yifeng said as he shook his head. But, Qing Long said anxiously. Dongfang Zhengpai looked into the distance and nodded. With such a roar we will die if we go. Let's not bother about it. Chapter 500. But, Qing Long was still unwilling. Getting up, Qing Long was still about to fly towards the East Hall. Qing Long, what is the task that the king gave you? Yifeng did not turn around, instead he quietly placed a chess piece. Yifeng's words caused Qing Long to freeze. Yin Chuan's task was for him to protect Yifeng? Protect Yifeng? Qing Long looked at Yifeng. Why was the person that the young master asked him to protect not anxious at all? Yifeng? Our king is in danger and you still have the mood to play chess? Qing Long scolded. Yifeng shook his head and said, I naturally understand that the king is in danger. At this time I cannot lose my cool. This is the difference between you and me. There are only a few experts from Julu City who dared to come. This means that many people can't and don't dare to interfere. So what? Qing Long shouted. If you can't interfere, it will be futile. You might even cause more trouble for the king. The king told me before that he expected a huge commotion and had already instructed me. It's fine if you can't help, but you must not lose your cool. Yifeng stood up and said to Qing Long, but? Qing Long was still unwilling. I believe in the king. The king will be fine. Yifeng said with certainty. All right. Qing Long nodded. Yifeng nodded. As he nodded, he glanced at the East Hall in the distance. A trace of worry flashed across his eyes. Yin Chuan was in the middle of the tiger's roar. How could Yifeng not be worried? However, the more important it was at this time, the calmer he had to be. He had to give the people around him peace. Even if his heart was in a mess, he had to appear calm. This was the mental strength that a commander needed. Yifeng flicked his sleeves and sat down again. He looked at the great Confucian who was about to lose. Bai Long Qing Long set up another 4 games. Yifeng called out. Yifeng was trying to divert their attention as well as his own. After all, there was nothing he could do about the Eastern Palace Hall. For more games? Lu Zilu asked in a deep voice. Lu Zilu had been watching Yifeng play Go. Lu Zilu did not make a move. He was looking for Yifeng's flaws. The group of Confucian scholars kept fighting Yifeng. However, Lu Zilu observed for a long time and did not find any flaws in Yifeng's movements. This person's chess skills had reached the pinnacle. Lu Zilu looked at Yifeng in shock. Was he really going to lose today? As soon as Dongfang Dian's tiger roar rang out, Lu Zilu was delighted. Lu Zilu was sure that Yifeng's weakness was about to be revealed. Now that he was unsettled, he would definitely reveal his weakness. However, Yifeng seemed to have guessed what Lu Zilu was thinking. He actually wanted to play another 4 games. For more games? 60 Confucian scholars are too slow. Let's play 5 at a time. Yifeng will play against 5 Confucian scholars at once. Yifeng said in a deep voice. Play against 5 Confucian scholars alone? The surrounding Confucian cultivators, who were attracted by the tiger roar, immediately showed shocked expressions. The tiger roar immediately attracted their attention to the next game. 1 against 5? Is this Yifeng crazy? However, Lu Zilu's expression changed. Yifeng did it on purpose. He definitely did it on purpose. Flaws? If there really were flaws, they would be hidden in mistakes when playing against 5. Who knew if Yifeng's mistake was a mistake or a flaw? Qing Long and Bai Long quickly set up 5 games. For more Confucian scholars then, Yifeng said calmly. Many of the 60 Confucian scholars showed angry expressions. They were Confucian scholars, yet they were ignored like this. Go. Lu Zilu said coldly. In the blink of an eye, Yifeng performed a grand scene that had not been seen in Julu City for many years. He played against 5 Confucian scholars. Chapter 501. Eastern Palace Hall. Bai Ditian's roar, which was filled with hatred and grief, spread throughout Julu City. The roar filled the sky. It was extremely powerful. The aftershocks had already turned the entire Julu City upside down. As for the great demon that bore the brunt of the roar, he naturally had to face the impact of the roar, which was hundreds or thousands of times stronger. That great demon saw the image of a huge tiger pouncing towards him as Bai Ditian roared. The huge tiger seemed to be real as it roared and charged towards the great demon. Boom! With a roar, the great demon revealed his true form. He was a huge black bear that was 200 feet long. The black bear let out a long and painful roar. Roar! The black bear roared. But how could this roar be stronger than Bai Ditian's roar? The bear's entire body floated up from the roar. It could not help but be controlled by the roar. Bam! 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 Many cracks appeared on the black bear's body as blood splattered everywhere. It was as if many of its bones had been shattered. The black bear could not resist the roar at all. It could only let the roar destroy it. Even the space there seemed to be distorted. The black bear's roar weakened after a while. The black bear's eyes were filled with despair. At this moment, the black bear finally knew what kind of monster it had provoked. The surrounding great demons wanted to save it, but the roar was too loud. They could not even take care of themselves. Roar! The roar stopped. The world fell silent. However, the ears of the surrounding great demons were still ringing. Bam! The black bear fell to the ground like a pile of mud. Blood flowed out of its 7 orifices as it convulsed. Although it was not dead, it no longer had the strength to fight. The powerful Bai Ditian's roar was so powerful? The 10 great demon beasts were horrified. Before they came, they thought that Bai Ditian was just a lower void realm expert. Who would have thought that Bai Ditian would be so strong? Upper void realm? It must be the upper void realm. A great demon exclaimed. Roar! Bai Ditian's face was ferocious as he looked at the great demons with murderous eyes. Activate the array. Quickly activate the array. Spider King's expression changed as he shouted. Spider King knew that if they did not stop Bai Ditian now, everyone would die here today. Boom! The 10 great demons quickly activated the profound yellow flag array. Activate the formation to the maximum and we'll leave. Wang Zhu shouted. Rumble! The black and yellow flag formation transformed into a huge net that enveloped Bai Ditian. The 10 demons no longer wished to trap Bai Ditian. They only wished to hold him back for a short while so that the demons could escape. The huge net appeared in front of Bai Ditian in the blink of an eye. Bai Ditian's eyes turned cold as he stretched out his palms. The cold air in his palms was very threatening. He inserted his hands into the net. See? The black-yellow flag array, which could trap Middle Emptiness Realm cultivators, was instantly torn apart like a rag. It could not stop Bai Ditian for even a second. It was torn apart with a single tear. Bang! Bang! The large flags exploded, and the profound yellow flag array was instantly broken. Go quickly! King Spider cried out. The 10 great demons didn't dare to stay any longer. They fled in 10 different directions. You want to leave? All of you stay here. Bai Ditian's expression was savage as he pressed down with his right hand. Boom! 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 The 10 great demons in the air seemed to be pulled down by a huge force as they crashed to the ground. The ground also seemed to have been strengthened countless times by Bai Ditian's actions. The 10 great demons fell, and blood splattered everywhere. Their flesh was mangled and their bones cracked. The domineering Bai Ditian. Chapter 502. Atlas Studios persuading Bai Ditian to join. You want to leave? All of you stay. Bai Ditian's expression was ferocious as he pressed down with his right hand. Boom! 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 The 10 demons flying in the air seemed to be pulled down by a huge force as they crashed to the ground. The ground also seemed to have been strengthened countless times by Bai Ditian's actions. As the 10 demons fell, blood splattered everywhere. Their flesh was badly mangled and their bones cracked. Ka! 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 The 10 demons were no match for the powerful Bai Ditian at all. In Bai Diqian's previous life, the Tiger Tribe's supreme martial artist, a superior void martial artist, could slap all of them to the ground with a flip of his hand. Blood splattered everywhere. The demons knew that they had bitten off more than they could chew. They all cried out in grief. How could this be? With a flip of his hand, the 10 demons were all severely injured. However, even so, they did not dare to attack Bai Diqian. They did not even dare to stop. With a push of their palms, their bodies shot out in 10 different directions. Swish, 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 swish. They did not dare to stop. At this moment, the 10 demons only had one thought. Run, run. As they ran, their hearts were bleeding. They had been thinking about how to capture Bai Diqian and how to use him to threaten the entire Tiger Tribe. Now, it seemed like the stupidest idea. Which bastard came up with this stupid idea? It was too terrifying. Were they going to die here today? The demons escaped with their injuries, but Bai Diqian's anger had not been completely vented. How could these demons escape? Weren't they just making things difficult for Bai Diqian? I said before. All of you stay. Bai Diqian's body seemed to split into 10 shadows as he slammed his palm down in 10 different directions. Boom! The 10 demons that had just escaped were once again attacked by an even stronger force. Ka-ka-ka-ka. Ka-ka-ka. Ka-ka. Ka-ka. The sound of bones breaking could be heard. Boom! One by one, the demons were smashed into the ground. Even though Bai Diqian had strengthened the ground, the 10 demons still created 10 huge pits. The 10 demons lay limp in the huge pits. Just like the first demon that had been injured by the tiger roar, they were like mud. The 10 demons were not dead, but at this moment they were as good as dead. They were all very sad. How could the demons know that Bai Diqian was so ruthless? So ruthless? One of the greater demons fell to the ground, tears flowing down his cheeks. Today's battle had been too direct. He was Bai Diqian's death? After Diqian's Bai Diqian's anger. However, his eyes was still cold. Looking at the 11 demonic beasts lying on the ground like mud, Bai Diqian's eyes flashed with a tinge of impatience. Bai Diqian, Bai Diqian, Bai Diqian, Bai Diqian. And Bai Diqian turned to look at Yen Chuan. Can you leave this group of great demons to me? Yen Chuan said calmly. Bai Diqian, bye to bye Diqian, bye. Yen Chuan smiled faintly and said, many thanks. You may enter the East Hall first. I haven't finished talking about what happened before. Bai Diqian nodded and walked into the East Hall. Outside the palace, the 11 greater demons were lying limp on the ground, staring at Yen Chuan with wide eyes. None of them seemed to believe him. Just as he was about to die at the hands of that ferocious demon Bai Diqian, the man in front of him had saved him? One sentence. Bai Diqian listened to him? Really? Chapter 503. The happiness of surviving a disaster suddenly shrouded his heart. Yen Chuan, what do you want? King Spider, who was more clear-headed, asked coldly. Yen Chuan was pleading for him? He was definitely plotting something. Although King Spider was seriously injured, he was still extremely calm. As soon as King Spider spoke, the group of great demons also became serious. What do you want? Yen Chuan saved you. Meow said disdainfully. The great demons. Yen Chuan ignored the great demons and called out to the outside of the white fog. Qinglong, come here. Yen Chuan shouted. Above the Yong Palace, Yifeng was fighting the 5 great Confucian scholars alone, and his placing of chess pieces was slightly slow. Obviously, although he was distracted by the chessboard, he was still worried about the direction of the East Palace. Not only Yifeng but Qinglong, Bailong, and Dongfeng Zhengpai were also worried. The 3 of them looked in the direction of the East Palace from time to time. After the tiger roar, there was a huge roar from the East Palace, as if there was a powerful battle. Everyone was anxious but they couldn't see. Qinglong clenched his fists. He was nervous. Until a voice came from inside. Qinglong, come here. The voice was no different from the sound of nature. Yen Chuan's tone was very light. The light tone could only mean one thing. Yen Chuan was fine, and he seemed to be very relaxed. Phew! Qinglong and Bailong looked at each other and sighed. Feeling a weight lifted off his shoulders, he smiled in satisfaction. Yifeng, who was playing chess, also felt relieved. He sighed softly, picked up the tea beside him and showed a relaxed look. Yin Chuan's crisis was resolved, and Yifeng also put his heart and soul on the chessboard. With a murderous look in his eyes, Yifeng's chess style suddenly became fierce. Qinglong flew to the East Palace. Not far away, in a valley below the floating island, Meng Rongrong hurried over. His eyes flashed with worry. Suddenly, Yin Chuan's voice came from the inside. "Qinglong, come here." Yin Chuan's voice was very light, immediately revealing his leisure. "Humph." Meng Rongrong snorted. Turning around, Meng Rongrong flew back to Julu Mountain. Unknowingly, the worry on his face had turned into relief. Qinglong flew back to the East Palace. But when he landed in the square, Qinglong was stunned. 10 great demons? Young master, isn't this where King Spider and the others were at the Tiger Clan's encampment last time? Qinglong asked in surprise. 10 great demons were injured to such an extent? Qinglong immediately analyzed the situation. It must be Bai Ditian. Thinking of Bai Ditian, Qinglong shuddered. Was this person really that strong? That's right, it's them. You watch them for me, don't let them run away. Yin Chuan said. Huh, do we still need to watch over them? Qinglong muttered. The group of great demons in front of him were like mud. There was no way they could escape. However, Yin Chuan was just being on the safe side. Qinglong nodded solemnly. Yin Chuan turned around and walked back to the East Palace. Clang! The door of the palace slammed shut. Have you calmed down? Yin Chuan asked with a smile. Bai Ditian frowned but didn't say anything. Obviously, this anger couldn't be appeased. His wife and son were still alive, so Bai Ditian couldn't be in a good mood. Yin Chuan sat down and said, "Let me tell you about Bai Tushar." Okay. Bai Ditian nodded. Bai Tushar and I established a deep friendship after a tragic battle. He also agreed to go to my country and help me conquer the world. Yin Chuan recalled. Chapter 504. Country. Bai Ditian raised his eyebrows. That's right. I've learned a little about this world over the years. In this world, countries have always been weak. However, in my previous life, countries were never weak. They were on equal footing with the various sacred grounds. Sects could be strong and so could countries. From the Imperial Dynasty to the Imperial Dynasty of China to the Celestial Dynasty of China, countries could inherit the providence of heaven and earth. They could be fated by the heavens and prosper forever. Yin Chuan said. Celestial Dynasty of China? Bai Ditian asked in surprise. That's right. In my previous life before I died, my country had already advanced to the level of the Celestial Dynasty. Of course, above that was the heavenly court of the Immortals. However, I did not reach that level in my previous life. The tiger race was my country's beast, and Bai Tushar was the king of the beasts. He followed me to conquer the world. Yin Chuan said. Is my son your subject? Bai Ditian asked in a low voice. Shaking his head, Yin Chuan said, No, he's not my subject. He's my brother. I don't interfere with the tiger race's authority, and Bai Tushar doesn't interfere with my politics. However, my country and the tiger race complement each other. It's like an alliance, but it's closer than an alliance. The tiger race helps my country conquer the world and protects some important people. My country's providence is shared with the tiger race. Although they don't get as much as I do, they still have great providence. Oh, great providence? Bai Ditian asked curiously. Providence and merit have the same effect. They can both speed up one's cultivation by 10 times, or even 100 times. Yin Chuan said. Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan suspiciously. After all, in this world, only the academy could have providence. A country? How could one have providence? In this battle, I'll go back and establish my country after I obtain the God investiture strategy. Bai Ditian, I hope that even in this world, the tiger race will still be the beasts of my country. As the king of the tiger race, you will be the king of the beasts of my country. What do you think? Yin Chuan said solemnly. King of the beasts of my country? Haha, why should I go to your country? Bai Ditian shook his head. You don't want to go to the absolute palace to take revenge? Yin Chuan said solemnly. Back then you helped my son and told me about him. I will repay you, but I don't like to be restrained. Revenge for Zhugong? I will. One day I will slaughter the entire Zhugong. Bai Ditian said solemnly. Ha ha ha, restrictions? I've already said it. As the master of the nation beast, your status is equal to mine, but you are not allowed to interfere with my politics. What restrictions do I have on you? The world is vast, and you are free to come and go. It's just that you are tied to me to the outside world. Could it be that you are afraid? Yin Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian frowned slightly as if he was thinking about Yin Chuan's words. Secondly, Zhugong, do you know what kind of existence Zhugong is? Upper Emptiness Realm cultivators were only dispensable death warriors. That was definitely a great power with immortals. Can you do it by yourself? Yin Chuan said aggressively. I Bai Ditian will definitely slaughter Zhugong. Bai Ditian said coldly. That's right. You can slaughter Zhugong, and I can see your arrogance. However, can you guarantee that your wife and son will be able to wait until the day you become strong? If they send another group of immortals along the way, what will you do? Yin Chuan said solemnly. Kakakaka. Bai Ditian clenched his fists tightly as he frowned deeply. Demon beasts, the heavens have given you different natural mystical abilities, but you are also unable to bear the heaven and earth's merit and providence. These two things can only be controlled by humans, or by the souls of humans. Although these things are ethereal, once gathered together, they can increase the speed of your cultivation. 10 times the speed of cultivation can shorten the time you need to become stronger by 10 times. Yin Chuan continued to advise. Bai Ditian's expression changed. Furthermore, when you went through the tribulation previously, did you reach the limit of mortals? The higher the limit, the stronger you will be when you become an immortal. With my providence in your body, you can become even stronger at the same time. That way, when you go through the tribulation and become an immortal, your strength will be different. When you become stronger, you will have my support. I will follow you and destroy Zhugong. How about that? Yin Chuan kept persuading him. Bai Ditian's expression changed. Chapter 505. Nyoibo Studio Bai Ditian's expression changed. It was as if he was thinking about Yin Chuan's words. Yin Chuan was not in a hurry. He waited patiently. Of course, Yin Chuan was not calm either. Bai Ditian was a formidable person after all. Many of his thoughts might not be so smooth. Yin Chuan had been very careful in persuading Bai Ditian this time. He had been so careful that he had been preparing for this moment since a few days ago. My son is the leader of your country's beast? Bai Ditian asked after a long silence. That's right. Although he is blind in one eye, he is infamous. Yin Chuan nodded. Bai Ditian was silent for a while. Then he smiled and said, Indeed. Although I don't know where Zhugong is, what you said makes sense. However, why should I join your country? Miao, other than joining Yin Chuan's country, what better choice do you have? Miao immediately asked. Bai Ditian did not underestimate Miao. No matter how low Miao's cultivation level was, her bloodline grade was higher than his. Country's beast? The tiger race does not have to become a country's beast. It is not difficult to become the guardian divine beast of a sacred ground. As long as I am willing, the 3 sacred grounds in the world will accept my tiger race. Do you believe that? Bai Ditian said in a low voice. Also, with my current strength, I can ascend to the celestial world as soon as possible. With my abilities, I will definitely be able to control a tiger race very quickly. At that time, I can even join other countries. Why must I stay in your country? Bai Ditian said in a low voice. Miao. Miao immediately said angrily. Looking at Bai Ditian, Yin Chuan smiled slightly and said, Deal with Zhugong for you? How many emperors would be willing to help you? Without going through many trials and tribulations with the emperor, which emperor would fight for the strength of an entire country for you? Kindness does not lead soldiers, and kindness does not lead countries. If you don't give enough, will they fight for everything for you? Bai Ditian narrowed his eyes. When you reach the celestial world, you will still be helping a small country. How is that different from me? Moreover, if you help a small country, can you be sure that it will rise up? Even if you really met a powerful emperor, could you guarantee that the emperor would share the sweetness with you after going through thick and thin with you? As for me, I've already been acknowledged by Bai Tu Shi. I'm sure you won't doubt my character. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Bai Ditian stared at Yin Chuan silently. Secondly, in this world I have always believed in one thing. It is also the portrayal of my will. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Oh, I am the peak of all the mountains under the heavens. Yin Chuan said solemnly. After saying this, Yin Chuan's aura suddenly increased by a lot. I am the peak of all the mountains in the world? This was a kind of self-confidence, a kind of invincible self-confidence. The mountains of the world referred to the heroes of the world. If he was at the peak, then he would be the #1 hero of the world. Under the heavens only I am supreme. This was not an overestimation of one's capabilities, but a kind of arrogance. An emperor must have the confidence to make the world submit to him. Only with the belief that he was the only one in the world could he conquer the world. Bai Ditian narrowed his eyes. You should already know that I am not a boastful person. I once had a heavenly kingdom. If I were to do it again, I would only do better. Give up what is near and seek what is far away. Bai Ditian, you should understand that I am sincere. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Bai Ditian looked at Yin Chuan and frowned. A kingdom? So what if you establish a kingdom here? It is a completely different world from the celestial world. Bai Ditian said with a frown. 2 worlds? So what if it is 2 worlds? I will definitely bring back the kingdom that I established. Even if the immortals and Buddhas block my way, I will slaughter them and kill my way back to the celestial world. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Chapter 506. Bai Ditian frowned as he looked at Yin Chuan. Also, if you become the leader of the tiger race, are you going to give up on the tiger race in this world? Why not bring them all into the celestial world? Yin Chuan asked. Bring the tiger race into the celestial world? Bai Ditian asked in surprise. After all, he had never thought of this before. Why not? Yin Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian fell silent again. As long as we raise our flag again and become famous, Bai Tushar will definitely come back to find me. The day of father-son unity is just around the corner. Yin Chuan tried to persuade him again. Bai Ditian frowned and thought for a while. What do you think? Yin Chuan asked solemnly. Bai Ditian was silent for a while before he shook his head gently. What you said today has impacted many of my ideas. Let me think about it. Sure, before I get the God sealing strategy, I will stay in Julu City. Let me know when you have thought it through. Yin Chuan nodded. Bai Ditian nodded seriously. He looked at Yin Chuan with a complicated expression. Yin Chuan stood there calmly. He met Bai Ditian's gaze. Clang! He waved his sleeves and the door opened. Bai Ditian took a deep look at Yin Chuan. Then with a flash he disappeared. Meow, he left just like that? What a stubborn fellow. Meow said. Ambitious and ruthless people all have their own pride. Although the leader of the national beast has the same status as me, the country of the national beast is in front and the beast behind. Unknowingly, he is still 1 head lower. In the past, the tiger race was the leader. Now that he is 1 head lower, everyone has to think about it. Yin Chuan explained. Meow, alright. Meow nodded. After Bai Ditian left, Yin Chuan slowly walked to the plaza. Young master, did Bai Ditian leave just now? So fast. Qing Long exclaimed. He is an upper void realm martial artist. Of course he is fast. Yin Chuan smiled. Yes. Qing Long nodded in shock. On the square, 11 greater demons lay on the ground like mud, and all of them were heavily injured and on the verge of death. Yin Chuan looked around at the demons and finally looked at the giant spider. King Spider. Yin Chuan, you want to subdue us? Spider King coldly shouted. Oh. Yin Chuan smiled. Don't even think about it, Spider King said coldly. We will only honor the Lord for the rest of our lives. We won't honor anyone else, even if we die. That's right. If you want to kill me, do whatever you want. Winner takes all. If you want to kill me, then kill me. The group of great demons said stubbornly. Qing Long frowned and was about to drink it when he was stopped by Yin Chuan. Shaking his head, Yin Chuan said, Who said I wanted to subdue you? The demons were surprised. I have met Yao Tianshang before. Yao Tianshang is a ruthless person. The demons he subdued will only be loyal to him. Naturally, I will not force you to do anything. Yin Chuan smiled. Hearing Yin Chuan's words, the demons heaved a sigh of relief. The demons had long been loyal to Yao Tianchang. If he turned to someone else, the demons would not be able to accept it, no matter how strong the other party was. But now that Yin Chuan was in charge of them, the demons could not resist. But the conviction in their hearts would not yield. Then what do you want? Spider King asked in a low voice. Actually, I am quite envious of Yao Tianchang for being able to get your help. I saved you this time because I have a motive. Yin Chuan smiled. What is it? Spider King was confused. Yin Chuan's straightforwardness confused Spider King. I want to compete for the God Investiture strategy. I want you, Spider King, to play the zither for me and be in charge of the zither battle. Yin Chuan said seriously. Zither battle? Spider King was shocked. Spider King had thought of many possibilities. Yin Chuan saved him because he wanted something from him to subdue him or to kill someone. However, Spider King did not expect that Yin Chuan would ask him to have a zither battle. Zither battle? That's right. Spider King, what do you think? Yin Chuan smiled. Just a zither battle? Spider King was in disbelief. Just a zither battle? Yin Chuan nodded seriously. Spider King had a strange look. Just a zither battle. If it's just a zither battle, I can agree to it. However, I cannot guarantee that I will win. Spider King shook his head. It's fine. Just do your best. Yin Chuan nodded. Spider King was still in disbelief. But I don't believe it. Just a zither battle? Nothing else? Spider King continued. I can allow you to recuperate. Once you are healed, the other great demons can leave at any time. As for you, you can stay behind and leave after the zither battle. I, Yin Chuan, will not stop you. Yin Chuan said seriously. You are not going to use poison or restrictions to restrict us? Spider King frowned. I've met Yao Tianchang before. He's a man of his word. I think that since he trusts you so much and allowed you to lead the great demons out to do this, you naturally won't go back on your word. As long as you agree, I won't restrict you in any way. You're free to come and go as you please. Free to come and go? That's right. Yin Chuan smiled. Spider King looked at Yin Chuan and felt admiration for Yin Chuan. I agree. Spider King nodded solemnly. Deal. Yin Chuan smiled. But what if I lose? Spider King frowned. I said I will not blame you. Yin Chuan shook his head. Spider King looked at Yin Chuan and nodded. Don't worry. Since I have promised you, I will do my best. Good. Then I will wait and see. Yin Chuan smiled. However, after we are healed, only I will stay. The other great demons will return to report to the Lord and leave immediately. Spider King said. My lord. The group of great demons exclaimed. Silence. Spider King shouted to stop the demons. I said I will not stop you. Yin Chuan smiled. Spider King looked at Yin Chuan and nodded. Many thanks. Yin Chuan nodded and looked at Qinglong. Bring them to the guest rooms on the left and treat them as VIPs. Do not neglect them. Yes. Qinglong nodded solemnly. Under the Azure Dragon's careful guidance, the 11 great demons were moved to a large hall, where they would temporarily stay. After Qinglong left, the demons looked at Spider King. My lord, do you really believe Yin Chuan's words? One of the great demons still did not believe. Yin Chuan is indeed a special person. I believe him. Also, when you are healed, immediately return and report to the Lord. Do not miss a single word. Spider King said in a deep voice. Yes. The great demons nodded. God bestowment strategy? This Yin Chuan seems like he wants to establish an academy. It is good that I stay. This person is extraordinary. If the Lord can recommend me, it would be even better. Spider King said in a deep voice. My lord, you want to persuade Yin Chuan? Let him join the Lord's faction? But he is only in the Qi realm. One of the great demons frowned. What do you know? A person's ability is not determined by their cultivation. Qi realm? When you were in the Qi realm, could you make a peek upper ethereal realm expert do you a favor? Spider King said. No. The great demon was at a loss. Chapter 507. A few days later, Tiger Tribe's encampment. Meng Ziqiu and Lui quietly arrived. Outside the Tiger Tribe's main hall, Zuo frowned and said, "My apologies, my king has been in seclusion ever since he returned. He doesn't wish to see anyone." With the Julu Academy's dean and Left Yard's dean here, Zuo naturally didn't dare to be negligent. "He doesn't wish to see anyone?" Lui asked in surprise. "Please inform them that I, Meng Ziqiu, am here on behalf of the Julu Academy," Meng Ziqiu said solemnly. On behalf of the Julu Academy, this ceremony was even more grand. It wasn't an individual, but the 50,000-year-old Julu Academy. Zuo finally nodded and said, "Please wait for a moment." Zuo entered the main hall and quickly came out. "How is it?" Lui asked. Zuo looked at the two and said, "My king might not be in a good mood, but he still asked me to inform the two of you." "Oh," Meng Ziqiu asked doubtfully. "My king said that the Tiger Tribe will remember the Julu Academy's past kindness. However, he is currently in a mess and is unable to receive the two of you. He will definitely pay a visit in the future," Zuo said solemnly. "My apologies." Zuo smiled bitterly. Meng Ziqiu represented the entire Julu Academy and was already giving Bai Ditian a lot of face. This was the entire Julu Academy. Although the Julu Academy was only a mid-tier sect, its heritage was much longer than the Dazhao sacred ground. With such a strong foundation, the dean and Left Yard's dean were here personally, but Bai Ditian actually didn't want to see them? "It's fine. We will wait for you at the Julu Academy then," Meng Ziqiu said with a carefree smile. "I will send the two of you off." "No need." Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Meng Ziqiu and Lui stepped forward and flew into the sky. The two flew back to the Julu Academy. During the flight, "Dean, did Bai Ditian do this on purpose?" Lui frowned. "It shouldn't be. According to history, Bai Ditian is a carefree person and has a deep relationship with the Julu Academy. This is why the Academy protected the Tiger Tribe back then. Bai Ditian must have encountered some troubles." Ziqiu shook his head. "Bai Ditian's troubles?" Eastern Palace Master Yan Chuan? Yu Yi's expression changed. "Yeah, looks like our understanding of this Yan Chuan is really too little," Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. "Should we send someone to contact them?" Yui asked curiously. "There's no need for that. Since he's in the Eastern Palace Hall with that brat from the Eastern Righteous faction, we don't have to worry," Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. "Eastern Orthodox sect? If his ancestors knew about this rascal, I wonder if they would be so angry that they would crawl out of their coffins," Yui said in amusement. "Not necessarily. Although he's a bit shameless, he's still honest," Meng Ziqiu said with a smile. Julu City Yong Hall. Yifeng played 5 games at once. The mood of the Confucians reached its peak. It had been a long time since they had seen such a grand occasion. There were very few chess masters in Julu City who had the ability to multitask. On the chessboard, Yifeng's moves were swift and fierce. His chess style was valiant, forcing the 5 great Confucians to retreat. It was as if there was a magnificent army slaughtering the chess pieces on the other side. A large number of Confucian cultivators were watching from the side. "I can't take it anymore. I can't understand this chess game." A Confucian cultivator retreated in horror. "Me too. There are 5 games and it's as if I'm seeing 5 huge whirlpools. If I continue watching, I'll go crazy. What a powerful chess game." Some of the weaker Confucian cultivators had already retreated to the side, not daring to watch the game. Only those who were more adept at chess were able to keep an eye on him. Chapter 508. Facing the 5 Confucian scholars, Yifeng smiled and said, "That's all there is to it." The 5 Confucian scholars ignored him and continued to stare at the chessboard. Not far away, Lu Zilu held a teacup and looked at the chessboard quietly. "Senior brother, do we still want to continue?" One of the Confucian scholars asked bitterly. "Yes, senior brother. It has already been 54 rounds, and Yifeng has not lost a single round. We have completely lost this round," Wang Long said with an ugly expression. "Pa, pa, 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 pa." Yifeng placed a piece on each of the 5 chessboards. "Thank you for letting me win." Yifeng smiled. How can that be? The 5 Confucian scholars looked at the chessboard in disbelief. However, after looking at it for a while, the 5 Confucian scholars looked disappointed and bitter. Master Yifeng won again. And he won all 5 rounds at the same time? Master Yifeng's chess skills are too amazing. The crowd exclaimed in admiration. The 5 great Confucian scholars stood up and walked in front of Lu Zilu. Senior brother, we are useless. The 5 of them said bitterly. Rest. It's fine. Lu Zilu consoled. Yes. Do we still want to continue? Dongfang Zhengpai laughed excitedly. Go the 5 of you. Lu Zilu said to the remaining 5 Confucian scholars. Senior brother? Wang Long was confused. Go. Lu Zilu insisted. Yes. The 5 Confucian scholars went to the chessboard again. Go ahead. Yifeng was happy to see them go. Yifeng played against the 5 Confucian scholars again. Ha ha ha, 60 Confucian scholars, great. Dongfang Zhengpai laughed excitedly. On the other side, the Confucian scholars' faces were extremely ugly. Senior brother, we have already lost so much. Why are we still playing? Won't it be too embarrassing? Wang Long said with an ugly expression. We have already lost our face. It doesn't matter. Lu Zilu said calmly. All right. The Confucian scholars nodded. Lu Zilu stared at the chessboard and drank his tea calmly. Pa 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 pa. One day later, the 5 Confucian scholars were defeated by Yifeng again. At this moment, the thousands of scholars invited to the peak literary gathering were all standing on Yifeng's side. They were all abnormally excited. Aha, Lu Zilu, you are the only one left. Are you going to continue? Dongfang Zhengpai said proudly. Let's stop here. Yifeng smiled. Why stop here? I haven't made my move yet, so the outcome is still undecided. Lu Zilu said with a smile. Ha ha ha, the outcome is still uncertain? It's already like this, what's the point of playing anymore? Are all of Sima Yuntian's disciples this shameless? Dongfang Zhengpai said disdainfully. The words of the Eastern Orthodox faction represented the thoughts of nearly 10,000 Confucian cultivators. What else could they do? He had already lost to such an extent. Could it be that he was going to lose the last piece of cloth to cover his shame? Wasn't it embarrassing? All right. Yifeng also smiled. Lu Zilu and Yifeng sat down. Although the scholarly cultivators had looks of disdain on their faces, they still stared at the chessboard. Lu Zilu stayed until the end. His chess skills were indeed much better than the others. There were a few times when he even made Yifeng feel a little embarrassed. However, Yifeng's chess skills were incomparably sharp. The more he played, the fiercer he became. Finally, one day later, Lu Zilu conceded defeat. Ha ha ha, I gave you some face but you didn't want to. Now you have lost, right? You overestimated yourself. Dongfang Zhengpai said with a smile. Lost? The 60 Confucian scholars lost so thoroughly. So much so that they hadn't won a single game until now. As Lu Zilu conceded defeat, the faces of the Confucian scholars all turned red. Thinking back to the past, the 72 Confucian scholars were so high-spirited. How could they have fallen to such a state? Chapter 509. A few of the Confucian scholars couldn't take the blow and spat out blood. Yifeng stood up and smiled. He didn't say anything and turned to look at the East Hall. Bai Long, let's go back. Yifeng said. Okay. Bai Long nodded. Bai Long led Yifeng back to the East Hall. At this moment, the Confucian scholars no longer looked at Yifeng with disdain. They all looked at him with respect. As for Dongfang Zhengpai, he liked to kick people when they were down, so he stayed behind to attack the 60 Confucian scholars. How is it? Lu Zilu? Didn't you want to be the finale? Why did you end up suppressing yourself? Dongfang Zhengpai mocked. The Confucian scholars glared at Dongfang Zhengpai with red faces. However, Dongfang Zhengpai continued, evil intentions lead to bad chess moves. That's an immortal saying. Evil intentions lead to bad chess moves? May I ask, great Confucian Dongfang, who was the one who said these immortal words? A Confucian cultivator asked curiously. I said it. Dongfang Zhengpai laughed. Huh. The Confucian scholars looked at this shameless person in shock. Let's go. Lu Zilu said. Yes. The 60 Confucian scholars took to the sky and flew away. Hey Lu Zilu, if you want to play chess, come to the East Hall. Dongfeng Zhengpai laughed. The 60 Confucian scholars refused to turn around. They came in high spirits but returned in disappointment. They were going to set a trap for Yan Chuan, but they all fell into it. Their mood was not just bad. Not long after, the 60 Confucian scholars disappeared from everyone's sight. In a large hall, Lu Zilu returned with the depressed Confucian scholars. As soon as he entered the hall, he saw a white-robed man sipping tea at the main seat. Second senior brother. The Confucian scholars greeted respectfully. Second senior brother, we have embarrassed teacher this time. Chen Ping said with an ugly expression. Second senior brother, our reputation is really ruined this time. Lu Zilu said bitterly. Zilu, you did well this time. Second senior brother took a sip of tea and smiled. Huh. In the main hall, all the great scholars were surprised. Second senior brother? What did he mean? Didn't we all lose? Chen Ping was puzzled. That day, when we heard the tigers roar, we came out of seclusion. Your news also reached me and my teacher. Although you all lost this time, Zilu did very well. 60 games is enough for me to find Yifeng's weakness. Second senior brother said in a low voice. Ah, Chen Ping said in surprise. Lu Zilu nodded and said, that's right. The reputation of the 60 of us is nothing. We can disassociate ourselves from the teacher at any time. We lost, but second senior brother found Yifeng's weakness. As long as we can get the God investiture strategy, our sacrifice is nothing. Not bad, Zilu did well this time, especially the last game. I saw it, you seem to have noticed it too? Second senior brother smiled. Lu Zilu shook his head and said, I was also confused. After seeing the first 59 games, I had a feeling that I might have found it, but I still couldn't be sure. You managed to find it. Indeed, this Yifeng's Go style is incomparably fierce, but mortals are mortals. Their vision will never be broad enough. Although his Go style is fierce, his initial arrangement is still lacking a little. This is Yifeng's weakness. Second senior brother said confidently. Eastern Palace Hall. Yifeng, you've set up a trap. Yan Chuan smiled. I just don't know if my idea has succeeded. Yifeng revealed a wry smile. 60 games. I think it should be enough to ingrain a kind of mentality. They won't think that you, Yifeng, are most skilled in arrangements. Wait until the competition for the God investiture strategy to give them a pleasant surprise. Ha 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 ha. Yan Chuan laughed. Chapter 510. Julu City, East Palace Hall. The door was tightly shut. Outside the hall, Qinglong, Bai Long, Yifeng, Spider King, and the other great demons were waiting. Boom! A loud explosion came from the palace. Not long after, the door opened with a bang. Yan Chuan slowly walked out. Congratulations to Prince Yan for reaching the second stage of the Qi realm. Wang Zhu smiled. Congratulations, my king. Yifeng also smiled. Yan Chuan smiled as he carried Miao Miao over his shoulder. Prince Yan, our injuries are much better now. They should also be leaving. I'm here to bid you farewell. King Spider laughed. What about you? Yan Chuan asked. Oh, me? Naturally. I'll fulfill my promise and stay behind to compete with you. Spider King said solemnly. Mr. Wang is a man of his word. Yan Chuan said with a smile. Prince Yan, I can't thank you enough. We'll meet again. The 10 great demons said solemnly. Take care. Yan Chuan nodded. The 10 great demons nodded and stepped into the sky, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. Spider King had been observing Yan Chuan the entire time. From start to finish, Yan Chuan didn't stop it at all. It was only when the 10 great Fae left that Spider King let out a long sigh of relief. The Yan Chuan in front of him was indeed one with words and deeds. Mr. Wang, you can go anywhere you want for the next year or so. Just come back before the Heavenly Bestowment Conference. Yan Chuan said with a smile. All right. Spider King nodded. Yifeng, how are you? Yan Chuan looked at Yifeng. There are countless immortal materials in Julu City. My cultivation is also increasing by the day. Yifeng smiled with satisfaction. That's good. Bai Long will be responsible for your safety. You can also stroll around the city. Yin Chuan said with a smile. Thank you, my king. Yifeng nodded. Meow. I want to go shopping too. Meow shouted. Sure. Yin Chuan smiled. Just as Yin Chuan was about to say something, a white light suddenly flew over from not far away. It was the Eastern Orthodox sect. Yin Chuan, the Holy Maiden is here. Quick, the Holy Maiden is here. Dongfang Zhengpai shouted excitedly. Holy Maiden? Yin Chuan's expression changed. She's the girl you've been looking for in Demon Wind Mountain Range. She just arrived in Julu City. Meng Ziqiu and Yue are waiting for her. Dongfang Zhengpai said. Zhenro? In Yin Chuan's mind, the image of the woman riding the Azure Phoenix carriage appeared. She looked exactly the same as his wife in his previous life. Zhenro? Take me there. Yin Chuan shouted directly. Follow me. Dongfang Zhengpai said excitedly. Dongfang Zhengpai had rushed back to fetch Yin Chuan. The Holy Maiden had promised him that as long as he took good care of Yin Chuan, she would give him a safety amulet. A safety amulet. It was a treasure that could turn misfortune into luck. Yin Chuan led Qinglong away. The rest of the people in the square were curious, but without Yin Chuan's permission, they didn't follow. Flying in the air, Yin Chuan's heart was in turmoil. However, he forced himself to calm down. Holy Maiden? Who is she? Yin Chuan asked again. I promised her that I wouldn't say. However, you can ask Qinglong. Dongfang Zhengpai shook his head. Yin Chuan looked at Qinglong. Holy Maiden? Could she be the Holy Maiden of the Celestial Arcanum sect? Qinglong said in shock. You know her? Yin Chuan asked expectantly. I know a little but not much. The Celestial Arcanum sect is the only sect in the world that cultivates fate. It is also the most mysterious sect. Its status is on par with the various holy grounds, and it is a superior sect. The Holy Maiden is similar to the Holy Maiden of the Dazhao Holy Ground. However, her status in the Celestial Arcanum sect is even better. Qinglong recalled. What else? Yin Chuan asked. Chapter 511. That's all, said Qinglong, shaking his head. All right. Yin Chuan sighed. Soon they arrived at a huge plaza. It was the plaza where they had signed up for the competition. Not far away, at the entrance of the mountain, there was 100 saints' righteousness altar. Righteousness filled the air as it revolved around a statue of goddess Xichan. At the entrance of the mountain, some Confucian cultivators stopped outsiders. Many cultivators looked inside curiously. Unfortunately, the entrance was covered in fog and they couldn't see anything. Among the curious cultivators, Dongfang Zhengpai found an old acquaintance. It was Old Yen, the one who had signed up for Yin Chuan. Old Yen, where's the Holy Maiden? Dongfang Zhengpai asked. Dongfang Zhengpai? Didn't you leave? Why are you here again? Old Yen frowned. Where's the Holy Maiden? Dongfang Zhengpai asked anxiously. She went to the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar. The dean and my teacher are receiving her, said Old Yen. That's good. Yin Chuan, let's go. Dongfang Zhengpai smiled. Wait, why are you going in? The dean said that no one is to disturb her, said Old Yen. What do you know? The Holy Maiden asked me and Yin Chuan to come, said Dongfang Zhengpai proudly. What do you mean by asking? I've been following the Holy Maiden since she arrived in Julu City. I saw you sneaking around. Why didn't she ask for you? Said Old Yen disdainfully. What do you know? The Holy Maiden owes me something. Owes you? What would the Holy Maiden owe you? Asked Old Yen. A protective talisman, said Dongfang Zhengpai proudly. Old Yen and the other old friends looked at Dongfang Zhengpai in shock. What do you think? Are you jealous? Said Dongfang Zhengpai proudly. Bah! The 6 Confucian cultivators spat on the ground. Protective talisman? You're not worthy, said Old Yen disdainfully. You don't believe me? If I want to come, give me your precious immortal wine. How about it? Said Dongfang Zhengpai. Bah, you're too shameless. Let's see how shameless you can be. Go get it, go get it. If you can shamelessly ask for it, we'll immediately give you that jar of immortal wine. Old Yen said in disbelief. All right, just you wait. Dongfang Zhengpai said proudly. Soon he brought Yin Chuan to the front. Great Confucian Dongfang, The dean has instructed us not to disturb the holy maiden. A Confucian cultivator stopped him. Well, Xiaoma, don't worry about it. If this shameless guy wants to go in, just let him go in. Old Yin suddenly shouted. That's right, let him in. The holy maiden will summon him. Don't stop him. Under the encouragement of the crowd, Dongfang Zhengpai, Yin Chuan, Qinglong, and Miao successfully entered the fog-sealed mountain mouth. He walked inside. Soon they passed through the white fog and saw the statues of the 100 saints inside. The statues of goddess Xichen stood in the center. At the side, 2 blue luan were pulling a huge carriage, and some maids and guards were standing guard at the side. 2 men in Confucian robes stood in the center. They were Meng Ziqiu and Yui. Everyone was looking at a white-clothed woman under the statue of goddess Xichen. The woman was extremely pious, and she bowed respectfully to goddess Xichen. She bowed 3 times in a row. Yan Chuan, Dongfang Zhengpai, and the others stood at the periphery of the Colonel. Yan Chuan stared fixedly at the otherworldly woman in white. The longing in his heart was about to burst out of Yan Chuan's chest. Chapter 5:12. Zhenrou? If it wasn't her, why did she look so similar? Could it be her previous life? But, worship goddess Xichen? Isn't there a statue of goddess Xichen in Celestial Arcanum sect as well? Yui chuckled. The fairy turned around and replied calmly, without goddess Xichen, there wouldn't be any living beings in this world today. No matter when or where, as long as goddess Xichen exists, I will worship her. Oh! Yuyi's eyes flashed with surprise. For the fairy to grace our Julu Academy with your presence. Your presence brings light to our Julu Academy as well. If you don't mind, could you stay in the Jade Cloud Court for a period of time? Meng Ziqiu chuckled. The fairy shook her head. I wish to stay here for 10 days and spend some time with goddess Xichen. Is that all right? Here. Meng Ziqiu's brows furrowed. Meng Ziqiu and Yu Yi's faces turned grim. Even from here I can feel the boundless righteous qi. This must be an important place in the Julu Academy. If I were to stay here alone, would it be all right for my servants to wait outside? The fairy requested once more. This? Meng Ziqiu's face was conflicted. It was as though he had some reservations. Zhenrou? You can't see? Suddenly a trembling voice rang out from behind the fairy. It was Yin Chuan who had shouted out. When Yin Chuan saw Zhenrou once more, the longing in his heart seemed to have melted him. There was happiness, nervousness, and joy. But just now, Yin Chuan realized that Zhenrou's eyes were lifeless. Lifeless eyes? One had to know that the most beautiful thing about Zhenrou in his previous life was those lively eyes of hers. But at this moment those eyes were lifeless. Even though they were open, they were empty. Was she blind? Yin Chuan's heart skipped a beat as he walked over. Oi Yin Chuan. This isn't the Zhenrou you know. It's not her. Dongfang Zhengpai chased over worriedly. Miao? Miao was extremely curious. Qinglong followed closely behind. Dongfang brat, why did you come in? Yui suddenly shouted. Yui shouted. Dongfang Zhengpai quivered and immediately said, Dean, this has nothing to do with me. You've already come in, how is it none of your business? Yui was amused by Dongfang Zheng's shamelessness. That's right, it was the heavenly maiden who promised me. She said that she would bring me a protective talisman. Dongfang Zhengpai shouted. Bastard, you even tricked the fairy? Yui glared. It's true. Dongfang Zhengpai said, feeling wronged. Just as Yui was about to drink again, the heavenly maiden said, Indeed, I promised the Dongfang Zheng sect a peace talisman. As she spoke, a nearby maidservant immediately took out a jade box and handed it over. Protective talisman? Yui looked at the jade box in surprise. Haha, the heavenly maiden is truly trustworthy. Dongfang Zhengpai rubbed his palms together as he received it excitedly. Don't come any closer. Heavenly maiden suddenly said to Yin Chuan. You can see me? Yin Chuan asked happily. He shook his head lightly. I can't see anything. But I can feel it. You can't see? How can you not see me? Zhenrou, you remember me? Yin Chuan asked anxiously. Sorry, I am not your wife, I am not Zhenrou. Heavenly maiden shook her head. You are not. If you are not my wife, how do you know that Zhenrou is my wife? Yin Chuan asked in disbelief. Dongfang Zhengpai suddenly interrupted. Last time the heavenly maiden used mind reading on you. Mind reading? Yin Chuan said with frown. She used this ability to see what you are thinking. Dongfang Zhengpai said. Chapter 513. Mind reading. Yin Chuan said with a frown. It's using this ability to see what you're thinking. Dongfang Zhengpai said. See what I'm thinking? There's such an ability? Yin Chuan's face sank. I only saw a portion of your wife, Zhanro. It was only when you lost control of your emotions and became ill from longing that I was able to see some of those thoughts. I couldn't see the rest. Mind reading isn't omnipotent. Fairy said indifferently. Yin Chuan was silent as he looked at Heavenly Maiden. Does Zhanro look like me? Heavenly Maiden asked. Yin Chuan said with a frown, exactly the same. Except for the eyes. Now I know what I look like. Heavenly Maiden smiled. Maybe you are Zhanro. Yin Chuan said. No. Heavenly Maiden shook her head. Unfortunately, I can calculate 10,000 years including my past and present life. I am not the Zhanro you speak of. Heavenly Maiden shook her head. 10,000 years? Yin Chuan frowned. 10,000 years? Past and present life? Dongfang Zhengpai and the others were shocked. Rumor has it that the Celestial Arcanum sect master can only calculate 3,000 years of his past life. Heavenly Maiden can actually calculate 10,000 years? Yui exclaimed. Yin Chuan stared at Heavenly Maiden. 10,000 years? How old am I? Moreover, it hasn't been long since Zhanro's death, right? It's as if everything is right in front of me. Is it really not? Yin Chuan felt an inexplicable sense of loss. Meow Yin Chuan, don't be sad. We have many people here to accompany you. Meow said softly. Heavenly Maiden's expression suddenly changed. There's another voice? Who is it? Heavenly Maiden was surprised. Meow? Are you talking about me? Meow turned around and asked. How is that possible? Yin Chuan, who's talking next to you? Why can't I see it? Heavenly Maiden said in shock. Everyone looked at each other. Is it that kitten? Meow? You can't even see, so how can you see me? Meow was speechless. That's not right. The Heavenly Maiden shook her head. He stomped on the ground. Who? With the Heavenly Maiden as the center, a huge shadow of the Tai Chi 8 trigrams suddenly appeared on the ground. The center was the Tai Chi yin-yang fish, and the periphery was a huge 8 trigrams. In an instant, it covered the entire 100 Saints morality altar. Suddenly, the surroundings became incomparably dark. For a moment, everyone felt as if they were placed on a strange altar. Everyone was there, but Meow, who was on Yin Chuan's shoulder, had disappeared. Ah! Where's Meow? Disappeared? Dongfang Zhengpai exclaimed. Disappear your sister. You're the one who disappeared. A voice suddenly sounded. The gigantic Taiji 8 trigrams altar suddenly disappeared. Suddenly, everyone saw Meow again. How is this possible? How can there be a birth chart that doesn't belong to the 5 elements of heaven, earth, yin and yang? How could there be a living being that wasn't restricted by the laws of heaven and earth? What are you? Heavenly Maiden asked in surprise. Meow, I'm not anything, I'm Meow. Really, Yin Chuan, I don't want to see her. She's weird. Meow pouted. Wait. Let me divine your fortune. Heavenly Maiden suddenly shouted. When Heavenly Maiden said that, everyone was surprised. One must know that it was harder to find someone from Celestial Arcanum sect to divine one's fortune, especially this Heavenly Maiden. It was said that many experts had gone to Celestial Arcanum sect to ask for her fortune, but from beginning to end, Heavenly Maiden had never divined one's fortune. But now she wanted to have her fortune told? Meow, I don't want you to. Meow immediately said. Chapter 514. Yin Chuan looked at Meow and then at the Holy Maiden. He clenched his fists and took a deep breath. Can you really calculate your past life within 10,000 years? And unfortunately I am not Zhanro. Don't force it. This Meow. Can you calculate it for me? The Holy Maiden asked expectantly. Sorry, since you are not Zhanro, we will also take our leave. Yin Chuan sighed. Wait. The Holy Maiden said anxiously. Sorry, holy maiden, don't force it. Yin Chuan shook his head and walked out of the valley in disappointment. Qinglong followed closely behind. The holy maiden frowned deeply. This Din and holy maiden, I will also take my leave. Dongfang Zhengpai also left with a smile. Yin Chuan left the valley, still feeling very disappointed. 10,000 years? Zhen Ro should have lived within 10,000 years. Why does she look so similar? She came out. That Dongfang slut came out. Old Yin shouted excitedly. However, Dongfang Zhengpai is even more excited than him. Ha ha ha, Old Yin, where is your immortal wine? Dongfang Zhengpai grabbed the jade box and laughed proudly. Old Yin and the others looked at each other. Can't be, this guy's face is so thick. He actually asked for a safety talisman? Old Yin said with a frown. Ha ha ha. Let's go and broaden your horizons. Dongfang Zhengpai is incomparably proud. Yin Chuan and Qinglong naturally did not want to play with Dongfang Zhengpai. After leaving the valley, they kept walking and quickly left with a disappointed mood. Perhaps because she knows that Yin Chuan is in a bad mood, Miao did not say anything at this moment. She only gnawed on her spirit stones. Yin Chuan walked through the plaza but did not realize that a pair of eyes were staring at him. Not far from the conferred god palace, Meng Rongrong originally came in a hurry. When she saw Yin Chuan leaving dejectedly, she immediately stopped and a trace of doubt appeared on her face. He is such a strong-willed person. How can he be dejected? Meng Rongrong's eyes flashed with intense curiosity. What happened? Evening in the Great Deer Hall. Father, you said that Yin Chuan tried to curry favor with the holy maiden but was rejected? How is that possible? Meng Rongrong's eyes were filled with disbelief. Why would I lie to you? Meng Ziqiu said with a strange expression. Clearly, even he found it hard to believe. It's true. Lu Yi nodded. What relationship? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. This was the first time he had heard of someone daring to claim a relationship with a fairy. He said the heavenly lady is his wife. Meng Ziqiu's expression became even stranger. Ah! Meng Rongrong was shocked. It's true. Lu Yi nodded with a bitter smile. Yin Chuan is too daring. Meng Rongrong exclaimed. Isn't that so? This is also the first time I've seen someone who dares to say that the heavenly daughter is his wife. Yui said with a bitter smile. Meng Rongrong was slightly stunned. Meng Rongrong's mood suddenly became very complicated. She did not understand why she was flustered when she heard this news. So now, the holy maiden is living alone in the 100 Saints' righteousness altar? Meng Rongrong asked again. Yes. Meng Ziqiu nodded. Headmaster, why did you agree at that time? Didn't you say? Lu Yi frowned. Alright Rongrong, you can go out. Meng Ziqiu suddenly interrupted. Father, is there anything that you can't let me know? Meng Rongrong asked with a strange expression. Go back. This is indeed something that I can't let you know. It's just the inheritance of the previous headmasters. Meng Ziqiu shook his head. Chapter 5:15. Alright. Meng Rongrong left in confusion. After Meng Rongrong left, Lu Yi looked at Meng Ziqiu. Headmaster, didn't you say that the secret of the Julu Academy is there? Could the heavenly maiden have purposely, for the sake of our Julu Academy's secret? Lu Yi frowned. Very likely. Meng Ziqiu nodded. Then why did you? Sai Lu Yi, did you know? Sima Yuntian envied me for being the headmaster, but I envied him as well. He could travel the world and visit all the academies. Meng Ziqiu smiled bitterly. Huh. Lu Yi looked at Meng Ziqiu in confusion. After the Heavenly Bestowal Conference, I'll settle everything. I want to pass the headmaster position to you. Meng Ziqiu smiled. Huh. How can that be? Headmaster, it's not time for you to undergo the tribulation yet. Lu Yi exclaimed. It's not that it's not time, but it's still far from it. I want to travel the world and take another step forward. So I can only leave the academy to you. Meng Ziqiu smiled. Lu Yi frowned but finally nodded. Alright. I can also tell you the secret of the 100 Saints Morality Altar. Meng Ziqiu said solemnly. Oh. Although the Julu Academy is only a middle-level sect, there have been higher-level sects that have attacked us in history, but all of them returned empty-handed. Do you know why? Meng Ziqiu asked in a low voice. Because the Julu Academy is popular and supported by all the sects in the world, Louis said. Meng Ziqiu shook his head and smiled. No, that's only one reason. The main reason is the 100 Saints Morality Altar. In fact, there's a world inside. There's a world inside? A pocket dimension? Louis was surprised. Yes, a pocket dimension created by a wise man. It contains the true essence of the Julu Academy. I've only entered it once. Meng Ziqiu took a deep breath. Huh, then why did the Heavenly Maiden stay there? Louis frowned. It doesn't matter. There's someone in that pocket dimension. The Heavenly Maiden can't do much. Meng Ziqiu smiled. Someone? Meng Rongrong left the Great Deer Hall. After returning to his residence, he pondered for a moment. You won't tell me? Then I'll go and take a look myself. Fairy? What kind of person could make Yan Chuan do such a thing? Meng Rongrong did not know why she had such thoughts, but she still got up and flew towards the 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. The mountain pass was filled with white fog, and Fairy was the only one inside. The fairy held a glass disc in her hands. The glass disc emitted a faint white light, and there seemed to be small dragons swimming inside. If Yan Chuan were here, he would definitely recognize it. It was the disc under Miao's sky-burying coffin back in the Demon Wind Mountain Range. Heavenly display board. However, at this moment it was much smaller. The Holy Maiden chanted an incantation. Suddenly, 300 stars in the sky shone brightly, illuminating the entire Julu city. For a moment, countless cultivators in Julu city looked at the sky in shock. East Hall. Yan Chuan walked alone in the square. Calculating 10,000 years ago? Yan Chuan frowned as he pondered. 10,000 years? Then she's not Zhenrou? But why does she look so similar? There must be a reason, there must be. Yan Chuan pondered. As he pondered, Yan Chuan's expression suddenly changed, and he looked up at the sky. In the sky, the natal star, the Emperor Star, shone brightly. Not only the Emperor Star, but nearly 300 other stars also shone brightly. The starlight illuminated the entire Julu city. It seemed to be very uniform, but as Yan Chuan's natal star, he could instantly analyze where the attraction was. 100 Saints Righteousness Altar? Yan Chuan looked at the direction of the night sky. Chapter 5:16. The Heavenly Maiden held the heavenly compass in her hand and manipulated the power of the 300 stars. The starlight illuminated Julu city, and the citizens looked up at the sky in shock. However, the starlight came and went quickly. In the blink of an eye, the stars were no longer dazzling, leaving behind a city of confused people. 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. Beneath Goddess Jichen's feet, the Heavenly Maiden's heavenly compass emitted a dazzling white light. Vaguely, there seemed to be 300 stars revolving within the white light. Boom! The white light suddenly exploded, instantly filling the entire 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. At the same time, it was as if there were 300 small stars revolving around him. Boom! 300 stars quickly gathered at one point. They gathered about 10 feet below Goddess Jichen. Boom! 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 After the massive collision, the 300 stars gradually disappeared, and a white door appeared beneath Goddess Jichen's feet. The door was quite blurry, and it was impossible to see what was inside. It was a door that had appeared out of nowhere. Found it. Fairy exhaled slightly. With a flip of her hand, she put away the heaven-projecting disc and walked in without hesitation. Outside the 100 Saints Morality Altar, Yan Chuan carried the Jade Emperor sword and ran over alone. Because it was late at night, the square was much quieter. However, there were still some people. In particular, there were 60 figures standing outside the 100 Saints Righteousness Altar. Lu Zilu. Yan Chuan looked at the neat rows of 60 Confucian scholars in surprise. They were the initiators of the Peak Literary Meet not long ago. The 60 people who had been defeated by Yi Feng. Why were they here? I, Lu Zilu, lead a group of junior brothers to seek an audience with the Heavenly Maiden. Lu Zilu said humbly. However, the 100 Saints Righteousness Altar was filled with white mist, making it impossible to see what was inside. Furthermore, the Heavenly Maiden inside did not reply. I, Lu Zilu, lead a group of junior brothers to seek an audience with the heavenly maiden. Lu Zilu called out respectfully again. However, there was still no reply. Not far away, Yin Chuan saw a few familiar faces. Meng Rongrong and Old Yen were among them. Yin Chuan strode over. What's going on? Didn't they say that the Holy Maiden's subordinates were guarding nearby? Where is he? Meng Rongrong asked. Eldest miss, I don't know either. They suddenly left. Old Yen smiled bitterly. What do you mean by suddenly leaving? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. I don't know. Maybe he went to do something. Old Yen smiled bitterly. They left the heavenly maiden alone and ran away? Meng Rongrong asked in surprise. Yes. Old Yen nodded with a bitter smile. At this time Yen Chuan also walked over. Mr. Yen, why are you here too? Old Yen was puzzled. Mr. Yen? Meng Rongrong turned around and saw Yen Chuan. The moment she saw Yen Chuan, she revealed a shocked expression. Her face turned slightly red, and her heart thumped wildly. Humph! Meng Rongrong snorted coldly and ignored him. Yen Chuan looked at Meng Rongrong and smiled. He did not say anything. Instead, he asked Old Yen, is the Holy Maiden still in the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar? Of course. She's the only one who hasn't come out. Old Yen nodded. When Meng Rongrong heard that Yen Chuan came in the middle of the night and asked about the Holy Maiden, she immediately felt irritated and walked away from Yen Chuan. Yen Chuan did not seem to notice Meng Rongrong's abnormality. Instead, he pointed at 60 great scholars and asked, what's going on with this group of people? Them? I don't know. Maybe they're looking for the Holy Maiden for fortune-telling. Old Yen smiled. Oh. Yen Chuan looked at Lu Zilu and the others strangely. Chapter 517. I am Lu Zilu, leading a group of junior brothers to seek an audience with the Holy Maiden. Lu Zilu said. However, there was still no sound from inside. Senior brother, let's go in. Chun Ping advised. Yes, we have been here for a while. Another scholar said. Lu Zilu thought for a moment and finally nodded. All right. Let's go. Lu Zilu led the 60 scholars to the entrance of the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar. What are they doing? Didn't the dean say that we are not allowed to disturb the Holy Maiden? Old Yan's expression changed. Yen Chuan did not say anything more to Old Yan and chased after them. Meng Rongrong also noticed the abnormality and quickly chased after them. Whoosh! The 60 scholars entered the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar. Yen Chuan and Meng Rongrong also entered. Lu Zilu, these bastards! Old Yan's face was filled with anger. Senior brother, what do we do now? A scholar walked out from the God-sealing hall and asked. The dean only said that no one is allowed to disturb the Holy Maiden, and did not ask anyone to look after her. I thought that the Holy Maiden's subordinates were enough to look after her, but who knew where they went? Lu Zilu actually dared to go against the dean's orders. There is no other choice now, quickly report to the dean. Old Yen said anxiously. Everyone nodded. Yen Chuan, Meng Rongrong and the rest entered the 100 Saints' Righteousness altar, and immediately saw the 60 scholars standing there. The moment the two of them entered, they immediately attracted the attention of the 60 scholars. Yen Chuan. Chun Ping's eyes flashed with anger. Yen Chuan ignored Chun Ping's jealous gaze and looked through the crowd at the white door below Goddess Ji Chen's feet. The door slowly shrank. Lu Zilu and the rest kept staring at the door. There's actually a spatial door? Teacher was right. The Julu Academy does have secrets. Lu Zilu's eyes flashed with excitement. The Holy Maiden must have also gone in. Wang Long said. Let's go. If we don't go in, the door will disappear. Lu Zilu said resolutely. With that said, Lu Zilu quickly stepped inside. As soon as Lu Zilu entered, the group of Grand Confucians followed him in. Is this the secret that father doesn't want to tell us? Meng Rongrong asked in surprise. At this moment Yen Chuan had also caught up. He stepped towards the small door that was only as tall as a person. Although Meng Rongrong wanted to stop them, she couldn't stop them at all. She could only frown and follow them in. The small door became smaller and smaller. Not long after everyone stepped in, the small door had shrunk to nothing. When Meng Ziqiu and Yui arrived, the entire 100 Saints' Righteousness altar was empty. That's impossible. I just saw the number 60 great scholar Yan Chuan and first Miss come in together. Why are they all gone? Old Yan said in surprise. Meng Ziqiu and Yui looked at each other. Don't forget what you saw just now. Also, inform the great Confucians of the first building of the left courtyard to guard outside. No one is allowed to enter. Meng Ziqiu said in a deep voice. Oh, okay. Old Yan nodded in confusion. Old Yan went out to make arrangements. Meng Ziqiu and Yui looked around again. Dean, you don't know about the entrance to the world of light? Yui asked doubtfully. I know, but I can't open it. Meng Ziqiu smiled bitterly. Oh. Don't worry, that small world is extremely strange. They can't do anything. I just hope they don't disturb him. Sigh, since they've already entered. It seems that it's impossible not to disturb him. Meng Ziqiu smiled bitterly. Yan Chuan and the others stepped into the small world and their eyes lit up. Chapter 518. Everyone found themselves on top of a hill. They were surrounded by mountains and rivers. This world was very strange. It was as if it had been separated from their feet. Half of it was extremely dark, while the other half was abnormally bright. It was as if one side was day, and the other side was night. There was no sun or moon here. The white light of day was emitted by the Aeon Qi, while the night was shrouded by countless black miasma. Although the miasma was dense, some of the light still pierced through, allowing those who entered to see clearly. What kind of world is this? It's so strange. A great scholar exclaimed. My magic power? I don't have any magic power? Chun Ping exclaimed. As soon as Chun Ping shouted, the great scholars cast their spells in surprise. However, all of their spells disappeared. Senior brother, how can this be? Chun Ping looked at Lu Zilu in shock. It's not that the spells disappeared. This world is suppressing our magic power. It's not like we haven't experienced a small world like this before. Have you forgotten? Lu Zilu said. Ah, I remember now. I understand now. This is the area of the 100 Saints' Righteousness Altar. It must have been created by the ascended immortals. Great scholar Wang Long said. That's right. Lu Zilu nodded affirmatively. Yan Chuan didn't pay attention to the analysis of these great scholars. Instead, he started to investigate the surrounding underbrush. Soon he found some broken grass. He took a deep breath and said, Miss Meng, come with me. After that, Yan Chuan walked in the direction of the broken grass. Meng Rongrong looked at Yan Chuan with a complicated expression. Although her eyes were still stubborn, she still followed Yan Chuan. The great scholars of number 60 had been paying attention to the two of them. As the two of them walked in the direction of the miasma, the great scholars of number 60 stopped their discussion. Senior brother, where do we go now? Wang Long frowned. I'll take half of the people to the Aeon Qi domain. Wang Long, take the other half and follow Yan Chuan into the miasma domain. Lu Zilu said. Yes. Meng Rongrong soon caught up with Yan Chuan. Why did you go this way? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. Ever since he saw Meng Rongrong's naked body, Meng Rongrong's attitude had always been hostile. Now she was finally willing to ask questions. Yan Chuan smiled and said, Look at the grass on the ground. Meng Rongrong's expression froze. She immediately discovered the abnormality. Is that grass broken? Meng Rongrong's expression changed. The grass is broken, which means that someone stepped on it. And the one who came in before us was probably the holy daughter. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said. Hearing Yan Chuan's explanation, Meng Rongrong's eyes flashed with admiration. However, Meng Rongrong's expression darkened when she thought of following the heavenly maiden. What's the matter? Yan Chuan asked. Humph, everything in this small world belongs to the Julu Academy. As long as I'm here, no one can take it away. Meng Rongrong said coldly. Yan Chuan smiled and did not argue with Meng Rongrong. After all, there was no point in doing so. That group of people followed us? Yan Chuan looked at the 30 Confucian scholars behind them in surprise. A group of annoying people. Meng Rongrong looked behind and said coldly. Yan Chuan smiled. Following them might not be a bad thing. The group continued to walk deeper. The further they went, the more miasma there was. Fortunately, everyone had entered the chi state and could adjust their internal breathing for a period of time. The group walked for a day. After passing through several mountains, they entered a dense forest. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. They could vaguely hear the sound of flowing water in the distance. Looking from afar, they saw a huge cliff shrouded in miasma. At the edge of the cliff, the holy daughter in white stood quietly in the wind, looking at the huge cliff in front of her. The sound of flowing water could be heard below the cliff. We finally caught up. Yanchuan smiled. Chapter 519. At the cliff entrance of the world of light. Yanchuan arrived in the blink of an eye and saw the heavenly maiden putting away a round wheel. Heavenly disc? Yanchuan immediately recognized it. It was the one he obtained from the Demon Wind mountain range. Did the heavenly maiden find this place because of the heavenly disc? Heavenly maiden, why did you enter the forbidden area of the Julu Academy without informing us? Meng Rongrong immediately stepped forward and shouted. Yanchuan surrounded her, as did Wang Long, Chan Ping, and the other Confucian scholars. But in the blink of an eye, everyone was attracted by the scene in front of them. Below the cliff was a rolling river, and on the opposite side was a similar cliff. In the air above the cliff there were floating stones. They were connected to the opposite side of the cliff. Meng Rongrong blamed the heavenly maiden. The heavenly maiden sighed slightly and said, "Sorry, I'm doing this for the common people." The common people? The Confucian scholars looked at the heavenly maiden in shock. What common people? Speak clearly. Meng Rongrong shouted. The heavenly maiden shook her head and stepped onto a floating stone. She stood steadily on it. Yanchuan was worried. After all, the heavenly maiden was blind. How could she step on the floating stone so accurately? After all, the floating rocks were scattered all over the place. The fairy stepped on one of the floating rocks and then another. Every step she took was a floating rock as she walked towards the other side. There must be something on the other side. Let's go, let's go. Chan Ping shouted excitedly. Chan Ping led the three Confucian scholars and quickly jumped onto a floating stone. Bang! Strangely, the floating stone was not fixed in the air. Instead, it fell with a loud bang. Save us! How could this be? The three Confucian scholars fell down the cliff. Junior brother! The Confucian scholars cried out in alarm. However, the three of them fell down along with the floating stone. Bang! 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 Save us! Senior brother! In the blink of an eye, they fell into the river below and were swept away by the huge waves. Junior brother! The Confucian scholars cried out in confusion. How could this be? Why is it that the holy maiden is fine after stepping on the floating island, but Chan Ping fell into the river the moment he stepped on it? Follow me, Yanchuan said to Meng Rongrong. Pa! Yanchuan jumped onto a floating rock. The floating rock beneath Yanchuan's feet was also firmly fixed in the air. The group of Confucian scholars looked at him in astonishment. Why is Yanchuan fine? Meng Rongrong followed behind Yanchuan and stepped on the floating rock. Yanchuan took the lead and stepped forward one by one. Some floating rocks can be stepped on, but some can't. Wang Long's expression changed. Immediately, everyone followed Yanchuan's footsteps and quickly stepped onto the floating rocks. How do you know this can be stepped on? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. I don't know. It's the holy maiden who knows. These are the floating rocks she stepped on. Yanchuan shook his head. But how does the holy maiden know which ones can be stepped on and which ones can't? Meng Rongrong frowned. I'm not sure either. Perhaps the holy maiden has been here before. Impossible. Rumor has it that the holy maiden has only been in the world for 20 years. 20 years ago, she never left the archaic Arcanum sect, much less come to the Julu Academy. This is her first time here. Meng Rongrong immediately shook her head. Oh, Yanchuan revealed a trace of surprise. She can quickly know which ones can be stepped on the first time? Rumble. Just as everyone was moving forward, the floating rock suddenly shook. The floating rock beneath Yanchuan's feet also shook violently. Chapter 520. What's going on? Why are the floating rocks moving? Why are they moving? Several Confucian scholars exclaimed. Bang! A floating rock with a Confucian scholar on it suddenly fell. It was fixed in the air just a moment ago, but now it suddenly fell? Ah! Senior brother, save me! Bang! Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the Confucian scholar was washed away by the huge waves. The expressions of the Confucian scholars changed. Quick, go back, go back! Wang Long exclaimed. A Confucian scholar jumped onto the floating rock that he had just walked on. Bang! Ah! He fell again and was swept away by the huge waves. Not good, the bobbing of these floating rocks has become uncertain. Wang Long's expression changed drastically. Ah! The floating rock under Meng Rongrong's feet also shook. Yin Chuan looked into the distance. Even though the floating rocks were sinking, the fairy was still walking very smoothly. She had even reached the end of the floating rock. Pa! The fairy jumped onto the other side of the floating rock. Yin Chuan, Meng Rongrong, and the group of Confucian scholars were left alone in the air. Ah, Yin Chuan, what should I do? I don't want to fall. Meng Rongrong said in a panic. Perhaps what she was afraid of would happen. The floating rock under Meng Rongrong's feet suddenly shook. Bang! Ah! Meng Rongrong fell off the cliff in fear. In this world, one's magic power was suppressed. Falling off the cliff might not kill one, but it could not stop the fear in everyone's heart. Because the magic power that they were so proud of could not be used, they immediately lost their sense of security. Below them was a surging river. Who wouldn't be afraid? Meng Rongrong was the same. Fear filled her heart when the floating rock shook. Now that the floating rock finally fell, her fear reached its peak. She waved her hands in the air as if she was trying to grab a life-saving straw. But was there one now? Bang! A figure immediately hugged Meng Rongrong. While Meng Rongrong was frightened and helpless, Yin Chuan hugged Meng Rongrong. When Meng Rongrong fell, her eyes were filled with surprise. Yin Chuan hugged her? She jumped with him? Being held in his arms, Meng Rongrong's fear seemed to be swept away in an instant. In her eyes there was only Yin Chuan's frowning brows. Looking at that eyebrow for some reason, Meng Rongrong's heart suddenly became extremely calm. Who? The two of them fell into the river below the cliff. At this moment, even though she had fallen, Meng Rongrong did not feel the slightest bit of fear in her heart. She only felt that it was a pity that she could no longer stop the fairy. Why? As they fell, Meng Rongrong asked softly. At that time, Yin Chuan was on the floating island and did not fall. Why did he jump over and fall with him? Shut up! Yin Chuan shouted at Meng Rongrong. Huh! Meng Rongrong was stunned. Whoosh! Suddenly, a green vine shot out from Yin Chuan's left sleeve to the other side of the cliff. Bang! Like an extremely long whip, it instantly wrapped around a big tree on the opposite cliff. Whoosh! The long whip wrapped tightly and quickly shortened. She pulled Yin Chuan to the other side of the river. Ah! Ah! The scholars who fell everywhere looked at Yin Chuan pulling a long whip and flying to the other side. They were all very confused. Yin Chuan, you little brat. Bastard Yin Chuan. Why does he have a long whip? The scholars fell into the river one after another. They were all very depressed. Why do you have such a long whip? Meng Rongrong was surprised. Yin Chuan blushed and said, Don't talk nonsense. Hold me tight. We are going to hit the wall. Ah! After all, the two of them fell for a distance. Although the long whip wrapped around the big tree and shortened, it still hit half of the cliff. Boom! Ah! The two of them crashed into the cliff and broke a lot of rocks. Fortunately, the two of them had strong bodies and didn't suffer any serious injuries. They were just a little closer to each other. Whoosh! The long whip slowly shortened and pulled the two of them to the opposite cliff. After putting away Poison Ivy's long whip, the two of them immediately separated. Meng Rongrong blushed. Ah! Ah! The previous awkwardness was quickly attracted by the sound of a group of scholars falling down the cliff not far away. The river swept up the group of scholars and washed them away in the blink of an eye. Meng Rongrong looked at the scholars with a complicated expression. There's no need to look. At their cultivation level, even if their magic is suppressed, their bodies can definitely withstand the collision of the river. They won't die. Yin Chuan shook his head. Then Yin Chuan walked out of the depths and chased after the fairy. What exactly was inside? The fairy actually wanted to barge in even at the risk of offending the Julu Academy? Yin Chuan felt a strong sense of curiosity. Meng Rongrong looked at the scholars who were being swept away by the river, and immediately chased after Yin Chuan. They walked into the forest. This place was too strange. It was said to be an array formation that blocked people, but there was a way out. It was even more impossible to say that it was formed naturally. This world was created by people, so it was obviously man-made. Why would they create such floating stones? The fairy couldn't see, so she walked very slowly. Yin Chuan and Meng Rongrong soon caught up. They chased into a forest. Chirp, 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 chirp. Countless sparrows chirped. Yin Chuan and Meng Rongrong saw that the fairy was standing at the periphery of a spacious area. There were thousands of black sparrows flying in the spacious area. The sparrow flew in the empty space, and the empty space extended out in an arc. It was like a circle of empty space, enveloping the interior of the space. I remember now. The cliff from before seemed to have an arc as well. The river under the cliff might be a circular spacious area. Now it's a circular spacious area? Meng Rongrong said in surprise with a frown. Are they poisonous sparrows? Yin Chuan's expression changed. Poisonous sparrows? Meng Rongrong asked curiously. These aren't real sparrows. They are poisonous sparrows formed by the dense miasma. They are controlled by someone using a formation and are flying randomly in a certain area. You can't touch them. These poisonous sparrows are extremely corrosive. Even emptiness realm experts will be turned into mush upon touching them. Even stones will be corroded upon contact. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Poisonous sparrows? Have you seen them before? Meng Rongrong said with a frown. I have, but I only saw it once. It was a forest filled with extremely dense miasma. After nearly 1,000 years, a poisonous sparrow was formed. When the poisonous sparrow was born, it instantly corroded an emptiness realm expert and his dharma treasures and weapons, causing them to rot together with him. There was only one back then, but there are millions of them here? Yin Chuan said in surprise. Looking at the densely packed poisonous sparrows, Yin Chuan's heart was in a state of shock. No wonder half of this world was miasma. The millions of poisonous sparrows explained everything. Fortunately, these poisonous sparrows flew randomly in a fixed area because of the array formation. Otherwise, if they swarmed over, even if he had the memories of his previous life, he would still be finished. While Yin Chuan was marveling at the countless poisonous sparrows, the fairy stepped into the spacious area not far away. No! Yin Chuan shouted in surprise. However, it was too late. The fairy had already stepped into the area where the poisonous sparrows were. Chapter 521. World of Radiance. Millions of poisonous sparrows surrounded a circular area. The heavenly maiden stepped forward and headed inside. No! Yin Chuan exclaimed. But it was too late. The fairy had already stepped into the area where the poisonous sparrows were. Chirp, 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 chirp. Thousands of poisonous sparrows flew rapidly from all directions, all of them crashing towards the holy maiden. The fairy paused slightly, and dozens of poisonous sparrows brushed past her. She continued forward, and dozens of poisonous sparrows brushed past her again. She paused again, and dozens of poisonous sparrows brushed past her again. How is this possible? Meng Rongrong exclaimed in surprise. As if rehearsed, the poisonous sparrows brushed past her one after another, but none of them touched the fairy. Is it a coincidence? It's not a coincidence. It can't be a coincidence. Yin Chuan's eyes widened. So the fairy is affecting the flying of the poisonous sparrows? No, the flying of the poisonous sparrows has never deviated. There are no rules. It's just that she keeps stopping and avoiding the poisonous sparrows. Yin Chuan frowned. Avoiding? These poisonous sparrows fly without any rules. How can they be avoided? There are millions of poisonous sparrows. Meng Rongrong said in disbelief. Unless... Yin Chuan frowned deeply. Unless the fairy has the ability to foresee the future. Meng Rongrong followed Yin Chuan's words. Foresee the future? Yin Chuan's eyes suddenly narrowed. Right, foresee the future. If she really has this ability, it can explain why she stepped on the floating stone earlier. She can foresee the effect of the floating stone. Now, she can foresee the flying trajectory of the poisonous sparrows. That's why she can strangely avoid the poisonous sparrows every time. Meng Rongrong's eyes widened. Impossible, impossible. The future is unpredictable. Even immortals can't foresee it because the future doesn't exist. Only what is experienced is real. How can a future that doesn't exist be foreseen? Yanchuan shook his head. The heavenly maiden cultivates luck. Meng Rongrong said. Yanchuan shook his head resolutely. It's impossible to cultivate luck. At most, I can calculate the past and the present. I can only calculate the things that exist or have existed in the past. How can I predict the future? Then why don't you explain why the heavenly maiden was able to avoid thousands of poisonous sparrows? Meng Rongrong said angrily. I don't know. Yanchuan was at a loss. Who? Soon Fairy had passed through the poison sparrow domain and arrived on the other side. Yanchuan's eyes were filled with anxiety as he watched the holy maiden enter the depths. Move aside, let me do it. Meng Rongrong suddenly untied the zither on her back. Yanchuan nodded and slowly stepped aside. Ding 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 ding. The zither string moved and a sound wave rushed out. The flying venomous sparrow suddenly stopped. Is it really working? Meng Rongrong's face lit up. Ding 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 ding. Meng Rongrong strummed the zither and beautiful music started to play. As soon as the music started, the venomous sparrow domain seemed to be intoxicated by the sound wave. Their originally irregular flight became regular in the blink of an eye. Under the music, the venomous sparrow domain soared into the sky and quickly circled in the sky. In an instant, a venomous sparrow domain appeared below. Amazing! Yanchuan praised. Meng Rongrong smiled and a trace of pride flashed across her eyes. Meng Rongrong strummed the zither string and quickly walked towards the interior. Yanchuan also walked towards the interior. Soon the two also passed through the venomous sparrow domain. The music stopped. Bam! GGGGGG. Countless venomous sparrow domain resumed their original irregular behavior and formed a wall of venomous sparrows. Chapter 522. Miss Meng's zither skills are the best I've ever seen. It's hard to find a match for you in this world. Yanchuan exclaimed. My zither skills? It's still too early to say. As far as I know, there are at least 2 people who are better than me. Meng Rongrong shook her head. Oh, Yanchuan said in surprise. As the two chatted, they chased after the fairy. Soon the two discover something extremely unusual. The ground is black and so are the trees? Why are they all black? Meng Rongrong said in surprise. We're about to reach the source of the miasma. The ground and trees have all been dyed black by the miasma. Yanchuan said in a low voice. Meng Rongrong nodded. In the blink of an eye, Yanchuan and Meng Rongrong had caught up to the fairy. You two actually followed me? The fairy was surprised. I thought you couldn't see? How did you arrive here so accurately? Yanchuan frowned. I'm blind but my mind's eye is open. My mind's eye can see my surroundings, but it's a pity that my mind's eye can only see black and white. I can't see a colorful world like you. The fairy smiled bitterly as she walked. Fairy, what are you looking for? Meng Rongrong frowned. Don't you know this place? The fairy asked curiously. What do you mean? Meng Rongrong frowned. In our world there are actually some seals. No one knows when they came from, only that they existed a long time ago. Some can even be traced back to ancient times. I remember that there should be a seal in the Demon Wind mountain range. It was later placed by Immortal Master Damiao. The fairy took a deep breath. Myriad Wonders Demonic Lotus? I've experienced that battle before. Yanchuan exclaimed. The Myriad Wonders Demonic Lotus was that battle. Yanchuan met Mo Yushi and Mr. Monroe, and obtained the Jade Emperor's sword. 10,000 Wonders Demonic Lotus? Indeed, it is an ancient item that Master Damiao accidentally obtained. It is incomparably evil. Perhaps Master Damiao learned about the reason for the ancient great calamity from the Myriad Wonders Demonic Lotus, so he set up a feng shui formation to seal the Myriad Wonders Demonic Lotus. The Holy Maiden recalled. The great ancient calamity? Yanchuan asked curiously. The great ancient calamity, that was a great calamity, right? After that calamity, the heavenly Tao collapsed, the high heavens already died. The holy maiden sighed lightly. The collapse of the heavenly Tao? Heaven is dead? Yin Chuan was puzzled. Not only Yin Chuan, but Meng Rongrong was also at a loss. That's right. Our Celestial Arcanum sect has actually been deducing the events of ancient times. However, when we deduced all the way up to that great calamity, we were unable to deduce any further. Therefore, we are looking for things from before the great calamity, hoping to restore that portion of history. The heavenly maiden shook her head. History from before the great calamity? Meng Rongrong asked in surprise. Over the years, generations of wise men of the Celestial Arcanum sect have been deducing, but nothing has been found. We only know that goddess Xichen, whom the world worships, was a figure from before the great calamity. She didn't create all life but saved all life. In that great calamity, she sacrificed herself to save all life. Unfortunately, after that the heavenly Tao collapsed, and the high heavens already died. The holy maiden sighed lightly. What does that have to do with coming here? Meng Rongrong frowned. 50,000 years ago, an ancient seal was found here at the Julu Academy. It was an ancient item. The founder of the Julu Academy, Invincible East, was about to ascend, so he created the world of light here and let his descendants guard it, the holy maiden said solemnly. Invincible East? Yin Chuan frowned. Chapter 523. Dongfang Bubi, the most powerful person in the world 50,000 years ago. When he established the Julu Academy, he instructed all sects, sacred grounds, and academies to abide by one rule. No sealed evil item in this world can be brought into the immortal world. Anyone who violates this rule will be punished by the world. Even if he ascends, he will be hunted down by the immortal world. The heavenly maiden took a deep breath and said, So domineering? Meng Rongrong said in surprise. You want to steal the ancient item here? Yin Chuan said with a frown. It's not stealing. It's an agreement between my Archaic Mysteries sect and the Julu Academy's third-generation dean. They set up barriers in this world, similar to the floating rock and poisonous sparrow from before. As long as someone from my Archaic Mysteries sect can take it away, my Archaic Mysteries sect will take care of it. The heavenly maiden said solemnly. As she said that, the three of them unconsciously stopped. Because the three of them had already seen the so-called ancient item. In front of them was a black pool. The pool was filled with incomparable evil energy. It was as if the pool was formed by miasma and evil energy. Above the pool of water was a black rose. The rose emitted an extremely evil energy. It was as if the rose had dyed the pool below black. It was as if the rose had dyed half of the radiant world black. And above the rose was a glazed pagoda. The glazed pagoda was holding the black rose. Even with the glazed pagoda, the black rose still emitted a dense evil energy, continuously polluting the earth. This evil energy, why does it feel a bit like the 10,000 Wonders demon lotus? Yin Chuan frowned. Buzz. The Jade Emperor sword on Yin Chuan's back suddenly trembled, as if it was excited. Yin Chuan frowned and steadied the Jade Emperor sword. I finally found it. The heavenly maiden sighed. That black rose? Yin Chuan asked. Both. The glazed pagoda and that rose are ancient items. With this item, it will be easier to deduce ancient matters. The heavenly maiden took a deep breath and said, No, this belongs to the Julu Academy. You can't take it unless my father comes. Meng Rongrong immediately blocked the holy maiden. This is something that Julu Academy's third-generation headmaster personally promised. Since I'm able to come here, I can take it. The holy maiden shook her head. No, how do I know you're telling the truth? As long as I'm here, don't even think about it. Meng Rongrong said coldly. With a wave of her hand, she placed the zither in front of her. If the heavenly maiden dared to move, she would attack. Although there was no mana here, Meng Rongrong's zither skills had not diminished. Naturally, she could produce sound techniques. Ooh! The holy maiden's figure suddenly flickered. She instantly appeared behind Meng Rongrong and pointed her finger. Bah! Meng Rongrong suddenly stiffened. How is that possible? You weren't suppressed by the radiant world? How do you have mana? Meng Rongrong was unable to move. I didn't say that I was suppressed. The holy maiden laughed. Why? Why aren't you suppressed? Meng Rongrong exclaimed. Meng Rongrong was instantly restrained by the holy maiden, unable to move. I have my ways. The holy maiden shook her head and did not explain. With that, the holy maiden looked at Yan Chuan and said, Yan Chuan, what about you? Do you want to stop me too? Taking a deep breath, Yan Chuan looked deeply at the holy maiden. This woman looked exactly like his wife in his previous life. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said, I want to ask you a question. Oh, holy maiden, how old are you this year? Yan Chuan asked solemnly. Me? 23 years old. The holy maiden said solemnly. 23? Didn't you start traveling around the world 20 years ago? 3 years old? Meng Rongrong, who was unable to move, exclaimed. 3 years old? Indeed, but at that time, I had already unlocked the wisdom of my previous life. So age is not important to me. The holy maiden shook her head. 23 years old? 23 years old? Yan Chuan suddenly felt a strong sense of hope. Because Zhenrou's death was 23 years ago, she should have died around that time. Zhenrou is dead? The holy maiden was born? Yan Chuan, are you going to stop me? The holy maiden asked again. Yan Chuan took a deep breath and said, No, I'll help you. Yan Chuan, you bastard. Meng Rongrong Jiaohu said. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.